Hello, my tea stirrers. Hello, my lovies. Hey, how you doing, sissy? Oh, talk your crap. I forgot they got you like they got me, girl. I'm telling you, we all getting hit. So I'm just crossing my fingers they don't hit this one because I still got 3 months. 3 months for the other one. Because I still got 3 months. So you at least you can go. And you know what, sister? A good thing that you remember when you did your last live and you was putting that link in there, a good thing you did that. Because you still can go live over there. You just gotta, and a good thing you brought the people. No, I'm talking about Talk Crack on your Talk Crack page. You can go live on your Talk Crack. Just don't talk too much crack. That's what get us in trouble. We stay in trouble. We both in YouTube jail until May. Wow. We're gonna start this in just a second. Just a second. We're gonna get this party started right. We're gonna get this party started right. We're gonna get this party started swiftly. Wait for a couple of more people. So whoever is watching the replay, you know you can always skip through this waiting period and get straight to the action. If this is your first time here and you want to promote, help the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe. And if you like what you see, I ain't mad at you, sis. I definitely ain't mad at you. Do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. That's why I got this page. I'm going to do what I got to do. And if you haven't hit that like, hit that like. Subscribe if you're a newbie here. It don't cost you nothing. Hit that subscribe button. It don't cost you nothing. Hit that like button. And if you like to support this page, you can go to my Cash App that's right under my name. Woo! We're gonna talk today. We're gonna get it started. We're waiting for a couple of people. Oh gosh. Hey, Dr. Mira, how you doing, my love? I would like to play some music for y'all, but I don't want to. I got stuff set up already. I got stuff set up already. All right. We need one more person. We're gonna get one more person in here, then we're gonna start one more because with this information, I hate to go backwards. This is good information, great information. Hey, Red Queen, how you doing, love? I appreciate every last single one of y'all for coming in. It ain't gonna be too long. It ain't gonna be too long. It's not gonna be too long. But I appreciate all you guys coming in. I appreciate you guys. We're going through this journey together of things we know, things we didn't know. But it's good that we talk about it. Hey, Ms. Rada Dodd, thank you for coming in the chat. Appreciate you guys so much. Okay, we got enough people on here. Let's get this party started. So I think I should do a timestamp so they'll know how to go straight to the learn how to do the timestamp. So I can they can go straight to the why not do a timestamp? They can get straight to the business. Okay, here we go, guys. Let's check this out.
To watch my exclusive content, not featured any.
This day is our day, and this day is our day, and we want to let them know that the black contingent of men, women, and children have a significant vote in this country.
And what you are unable to accept is this. You always call it a minority problem. And it's true that black women and white people are a minority in any European capital. But we are not a minority in the world. You are the minority. And that's what you cannot face. All you really have, after all, are space shuttles, banks, and weapons. What you don't have anymore is me. Is me.
Hey, Sissy Douglas.
My father's a Black Panther. My mother got arrested for the sit-ins at age 6. They were fighting for us to have the right to our opinion, not the right to vote for whoever the white liberals said black people are supposed to vote for. You get what I'm saying? And then James Corden went in and said, well, this president, you're Christian, and this president, I don't see anything Christian about him. I said, okay, so last year y'all tried to tell me who I'm supposed to vote for because I'm black. Now this year, white liberals trying to tell me who I'm supposed to vote for because I'm Christian. That would be like I live in Calabasas, so every one of my cars got to be a convertible, huh? It's just all based on y'all vision of what I'm supposed to do.
What is it you wanted me to reconcile myself to? I was born here almost 60 years ago. I'm not going to live another 60 years. You always told me it takes time. It's taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's and my sister's time, my nieces and my nephew's time. How much time do you want? For your progress. For your progress. For your progress.
CO, everyone. So I take it that you are well versed on what part one of the segment has to offer. And all of what I'm pointing out here during this time period is very essential to note when it comes to understanding why the so-called black vote has been discounted and undermined to the point where if the Negro shall decide to even go and register to vote under their own will, then there's a strong possibility that they may be evicted from their own lands and could possibly face losing their only means to make an income that allows them to provide for their families and maintain their farms. So let us begin things where we left off in part 1,
Hey,
where it was from
Kiana.
this June 6,
Hey, love. How you and the baby
1966
doing?
James Meredith precedent that provoked a young, aspiring civil rights activist by the name of Stokely Carmichael to finally have his opportunity to shine in the political spotlight on a national level. Stokely Standiford Churchill Carmichael was born June 29, 1941, in Port of Spain, Trinidad. Then he immigrated to the US in 1952 at the age of 11, where he briefly resided in Harlem, New York with both of his parents until they moved to Van Ness in East Bronx, New York, which was predominantly an Italian and Jewish immigrant neighborhood at that time. What is very important to note here is that Stokely Carmichael was a member of the Morris Park Dukes gang in East Bronx, New York, in which he was the only person of color accepted into this organized crime-related street gang. Keep in mind that this was at a time period where you may believe that racism ran rapid throughout America, and so-called whites would be furiously opposed to working with so-called blacks in collaboration efforts. However, truthful history continues to prove otherwise. Many people that shared various shades of the color brown in skin complexion did not share the same life experiences as some others may have in most southern and northern states of America. And like millions of others, Stokely was one of those children. And we can all agree that racism is not something that you are born with. Racism has to be taught to an individual. So, without a doubt, now you know that it works both ways. In fact, it wasn't until Stokely's very first year of attending Howard University as a student in 1961 that he became aware of segregation and racial discrimination, sparking his interest in studying the already active civil rights movement with a few of his fellow classmates, undergoing discovery of all tricks of the trade. Stokely eventually joined the Nonviolence Action Group, which was the Howard campus affiliate of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC for short, where he studied under the guise of various other students of particular colleges and universities, like Diane Nash, for example, who also didn't experience racism during her childhood until she later became a college student.
I had never traveled to the South at that time, and I didn't have an emotional relationship to segregation. It's, I understood the facts and the stories, but there was not the emotional relationship. When I actually went south and actually saw signs that said white and colored, and I actually could not drink out of that water fountain or go to that ladies' room, I had a real emotional reaction to that.
Doesn't it sound awfully familiar? When people, they think that because, yeah, sissy, they think because they haven't been treated in a certain way, a lot of us until today, not us, but a lot of people till today forget they are still Black. And sometimes it hits them, they will go all out for their Caucasian, not saying not to have Caucasian friends, do whatever you want. If they're good people, they're good people. But being that they wasn't faced with certain racism, they, in their mind, they around their friends, but as we saw in the previous video, they still talk about you behind your back. But being that they wasn't faced with it, they think it don't exist. They think it don't exist and it does not apply to them. See, and this is what we still see what's going on today. It applies to all of us. You just got to be at the wrong place at the right time. And now you have now experienced racism. But a lot of people like to scapegoat it, and they'll be around at Caucasian, and they act like it does not exist. Then they start talking about like the less educated, the less privileged, or all the less, and then talk about our environment. Yeah, exactly, Red Queen. You talk about our environment or where you live or how you talk, not knowing that that's just how someone was raised. They never thought, let me pull some of them out of here. They just like cut the cord like we don't know them. Like, no, we invited to these dinners. We know these set of people until they at the wrong place at the right time. Then they get a little wake-up call.
Diane Nash is one of the co-founders of SNCC, and she was also involved in the field operations of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was its president, and also one of the prominent leading influencers of the civil rights movement already underway. Then 21-year-old Stokely Carmichael grew to have a different approach to tackling various politically driven issues of concern, in which many of these ways were looked down upon by his fellow colleagues who disagreed with disengaging from being moral supporters of nonviolence and loyalists to Dr. King. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee was founded by a few young college students, like then 22-year-old Diane Nash of Howard University, and then 25-year-old Charles Frederick McDough of South Carolina State University, joining with then 57-year-old Ella Josephine Baker of Shaw University, just to name a few, in April of the year 1960. Together, they all nominated then 24-year-old Marion Berry of Fisk University to become the committee's very first chairman. And then the very next year, Berry was replaced by Charles McDough himself in 1961. And McDough held the chairman position until stepping down 2 years later. And then 23-year-old John Robert Lewis was elected chairman of SNCC in 1963. Now, by this time period, members of SNCC found themselves becoming victims of their own demise when it came to firm mutual agreements on various causes of some high-profile concerns within their own student committees. One of these concerns was that many of the students found themselves at odds with the old nonviolent approach that was heavily publicly promoted by various so-called Black leaders, with Dr. King leading the charge. On the part of SNCC's involvement within these disagreements, they were mainly discussed, debated, and manifested by Stokely Carmichael himself, who was a field organizer of SNCC during this time period in 1963. In 1964, John Lewis was then forcefully removed as the chairman of SNCC due to Stokely Carmichael and his direct peers' disagreement with practicing nonviolence rather than self-defense, and the fact that John Lewis was too close of a friend to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So, the majority of SNCC members decided that Lewis should turn his back against Dr. King and his agenda.
Stokely Carmichael had you removed as the chairman of that committee. Why? Called SNCC.
It was called SNCC. It was called SNCC, short, I guess, for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee of the press, was SNCC. And there was a feeling on the part of Stokely, Carmichael, and some other, that I was too close to Martin Luther King Jr., that I was too committed to the philosophy and discipline of nonviolence. They didn't think I was militant enough or radical enough. They wanted me to take on Martin Luther King Jr., take on Lyndon Johnson as president. I disagreed with President Johnson on many things, but I was not going to get in a name calling process a thing with Lyndon Johnson, with Dr. King. Dr. King was my friend. I was on his board, the board of SCLC. He was my leader. He was my hero. And I accepted the role as a participant. I didn't see myself as some great leader. I saw myself as one of the participants in the civil rights movement.
After successfully removing John Lewis as chairman, Stokely Carmichael was then elected as the new chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in 1964 at the age of 23. And as you can tell by John Lewis's own account here, there was a lot of tension between the college students of SNCC and SCLC and many other parties involved that I'll get into more detail here soon enough. Once Stokely became the chairman of SNCC in 1964, he quickly realized that he needed to stick with Dr. King and his political motives, agendas, and participation in various precedents that Dr. King involved himself in, all just to gain the attention of Dr. King's viewers, listeners, supporters, and media presence. And here's what I mean by that. Just as well as the other college students who participated in the civil rights organizations they created, Stokely Carmichael was one of those college students who participated with influencing numerous people of color to go and register to vote. And he was also determined to be the very first person to popularize the phrase Black Power on national media by sticking to Dr. King's side in particular whenever the media is present. And he casually speaks in response to Dr. King on most occasions, standing against Dr. King's beliefs, pledges, opinions, and his overall agenda. Upon close examination of Dr. King's facial expression, we can determine that Stokely was upsetting him, but Dr. King still managed to not lose focus.
What do you mean when you shout Black Power to these people back here?
I mean that they are oppressed because they are black, and their rallying cry must be Black Power, so that they can use that to ensure justice for themselves.
I feel that while believing firmly that power is necessary, that it would be difficult for me to use the phrase Black Power because of the connotative meaning that it has for many people and the feeling that this may represent a desire to rise from a position of disadvantage to one of advantage, thereby subverting justice.
It's important to understand the transition with SNCC. When Stokely became the chairman of SNCC, he had a different approach. He'd not been trained in nonviolence, and he believed in self-defense. And he was somewhat influenced by, Malcolm X, who talked about that, and also Adam Clayton Powell. Adam Clayton Powell talked about Black Power even before Stokely and others.
And it was amazing to me how after long walks, he would listen to them vent, listen to all of us vent, and it was wonderful to be a fly on the wall with great patience. And I remember him often saying, Stokely, is it that bad? Is it that bad? But he listened, and that was when Black Power first began to emerge. And I will never forget Dr. King's face when in Greenwood, we had a rally, and Willie Ricks got up and started saying Black Power. He looked like the most stricken man, but that was the first real breach in the nonviolence commitment.
Mississippi of 1964, Stokely spoke at various student-filled meetings and began soliciting door-to-door within particular neighborhoods of counties heavily populated by low-income residents of Mississippi. So now the question then becomes, to go and vote for what? And to go and vote for who? A portion of that who was known as the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which was a newly formed political party of Democrats that consisted of both so-called white and black representatives. And
Mute button. Hello, co-host. I see you had the twitch fingers, girl. I was like, let it out. So far.
Woo, okay.
You said they should have let him go. They didn't like black, but you had the quick fingers. But I need to hear what you say.
My husband.
Okay, so what I'm saying is the bottom line is this. I was talking about this earlier. I'm sorry, my mind is kind of everywhere. I was talking about this the last time we had a conversation about the SNCC organization and how a lot of them, oh my God, how a lot of them went to the Black Panther Party and how a lot of them did what they did. Hold on one second.
All right, so I'm gonna let this play while you talk.
Okay, so you're on mute, but can you hear me? You're on mute.
Oh, no, because I thought it was Honey Bun that was calling you. So I said, let this run while you talk to him, because I didn't want you to get no trouble.
Yeah, he all right. You know what I was saying basically how the organization Dr. King was getting, which a lot of people don't know, is Dr. King was getting that money from Kennedy's and other white folk.
I didn't understand what you was. Yeah, okay. Because you didn't say nothing. You would just type it because he was getting kidney money. Dr. King didn't like black people. So I was like, what is she talking about? But I got you. Go ahead.
And he was also getting that money from the Jewish community because of the NAACP was definitely an organization definitely kind of created really for Jewish/Black folks, but more so for Jewish people, which they don't really tell you. They'll tell you, hey, it's for colored people, but it's not really because of, I mean, just look at the way that they consist. Look at the way that they move things, but it's definitely Jewish funded. Let's say Jewish funded. Can I say that? Jewish funded, okay? Jewish community dollars. That's funding that. Okay. And so when you have that situation and when you have that, that's what it's going to consist of. So we have to be mindful of that. And because of Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, when he became the prime minister of the Black Panther Party later on, and when he was in the SNCC organization, he was toting a fine line of self-defense because it took, take one time for them to get in and whoop on you and stuff. And King was on the line of non-defense of non-violence. But how could it be violence if somebody is going against you with violence? It's not me being violent, it's me defending myself. So right. I kind of wish they cleaned that up. And then you had boy, which he still I forgot what his name is. If you go the one that was talking, that was the former
one who just passed away.
Yes, him.
Lewis something.
Lewis being on that energy of doing that, of being a certain type of way and going with that type of flow. And we have to definitely and certainly be mindful of that. And we have to understand what the premises was and how a lot of them had fear. See, again, it goes back to what I was saying the other day about how a lot of them had fear, and we can't escape that. We can't go around it. I'm not getting ready to sugar cuff it. It was fear, straight up fear. Okay.
I like the part where it said, did you see Martin Luther King face when homeboy sat up there with Black Power?
Right. He was like, I don't like that word. I can't use that word. And that word may offend my white colleagues. That's what he's trying to tell y'all in so many words. That Black Power rhetoric is going to offend my colleagues, and we can't have that. My colleagues be offended in that way.
Yeah, what I'm glad he woke up though, but we're gonna see a little bit more of this.
All right, I'm going on mute.
I ain't gonna keep y'all all night.
Despite being heavily favored publicly by way of visual images of this party being heavily campaigned by the media to the public, white Democrats of the original Dixiecrats party, along with Lyndon B. Johnson, became very aggravated and defensive and reacted in a way as if someone intruded upon their privacies of a segregated lifestyle. Then 47-year-old Fannie Lou Hamer of Montgomery County, Mississippi, was chosen to speak at the Democratic National Convention held on August 22nd, 1964, as the vice chairperson of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Ms. Hamer detailed some very vital information to the public that should have alarmed everyone then about the cons of the so-called Negroes' participation in a voting system that they were initially banned from.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee. My name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. And Reverend Jeff Funny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, Fannie Lou, do you know, did Cap tell you what I said? And I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I mean that if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. That then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we're not ready for that in Mississippi.
Now, this is why it is very essential to know your history of your own family members, because not every county of every state underwent racial discrimination, environmental racism, low-income poverty, nor racial segregation during this time period of the 1960s. Okay? In fact, many of these college students that were members of these various committees didn't experience any of these things as a child growing up and becoming young adults. What you will find is that many of these college students were well-educated followers of various religious faiths, and their parents even disagreed with.
Damn it. They were grooming without them knowing. They were grooming the gatekeepers. That's why they all was in these fraternities. We ain't had no business in no fraternities. But they was grooming. So what they didn't know, even though you didn't face the racism, they don't know certain people were shielded because you were smart and you was educated. And we need y'all because they didn't know the war was going to be us against us without us against them having guns and stuff. So we don't have to shoot and kill them all. We got to start getting these gatekeepers in line. That's what they didn't know. What you got to say on that?
I mean, of course. Of course, that goes without saying. You're going to have them doing things within the status quo, you know, of the subject matter, and they're going to keep doing things like that, and they're gonna keep grooming them. They're gonna keep doing that. They're gonna keep doing that throughout time. They're gonna keep on banning with them to keeping up this oppressive state of affairs at its finest. I mean, they're gonna keep doing that. They're doing it today. I mean, look at everything that's going on. Look at Kanye. What's his name? Kanye and Pepper. Look at him. He's the main one, and his father was a Panther, you know. And so you would think, you know, he would be talking a different game, but I mean, it is what it is. So it's no surprising.
But it's different. You got to remember, it's different levels of gatekeepers too. So he chose to go into the entertainment. So that makes you a gatekeeper too. And
yeah, but that's a scare. But that's a even more dangerous gatekeeper,
right,
because think about his influences. Anytime you have someone that can influence the nation, Kanye has the power to influence the nation because of music artistry from centuries. So if you go back to even like Ozzie Davis and James Brown and different pillars of our so-called community that came from our community that found some type of stardom, they're definitely one of the biggest influences, more so than the regular lumpen proletariat.
Yeah, that's why I said that's a whole different level of gatekeeping. Because even when Bob Marley, when they was having the political things that was going on in Jamaica, who they had go sing? Bob Marley, you know, when we was, I mean, the same, because we all the same people. We just
they call them
different
plantation. They're known as culture nationalists.
Yeah,
that's what we would call culture nationalists. Yeah.
Where's Black Stars? I don't know. She might pop in a little bit later, but she said she had a water bus and where she's at, and a lot of things got flooded. A lot of things is flooded where she at, Sister Douglas.
With them attempting to desegregate schools where so-called whites attended and other public places that so-called Negroes didn't own or were not even a part of. What's also important to note here is that their parents were not struggling to the point where they couldn't afford for their children to gain a higher education. These college students were very well versed in organizing meetings, gathering funds necessary, writing public speeches for members who were speakers, and more importantly, influence members to dare place themselves directly in the way of segregated areas across America, purposely.
Well, I first heard of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1955 when I was 15 years old. I grew up only about 50 miles from Montgomery. I had seen the signs that said white, colored, white men, white women, white waiting, colored waiting. I heard Dr. King's voice on the old radio. His words inspired me. I grew up in segregated rural Alabama, and I didn't like the signs that I saw saying white and colored. White men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. The action of Dr. King inspired me to find a way to get in the way. I had been told by my mother, my father, my grandparents, and great-grandparents, when I would ask questions, they would say, don't get in trouble. Don't get in the way. But I felt like Martin Luther King Jr. was speaking directly to me, saying, John Robert Lewis, you too can do something. So in 1957, at the age of 17, I wrote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a letter. I didn't tell my mother, my father, any of my sisters or brothers or teachers. I wanted to attend a little college 10 miles from my home called Troy State College. I applied to go there, submitted my application, my high school transcript. So I wrote this letter. Dr. King wrote me back and sent me a round-trip Greyhound bus ticket and invited me to come to Montgomery to meet with him. So in September 1957, I boarded a bus. I traveled from Troy, Alabama, rural Alabama, past Montgomery, to Nashville to go to school. An uncle of mine gave me $100 bill, more money than I ever had. Gave me a Foot Locker, put everything that I own, my few books, my few clothing in that Foot Locker, and took a Greyhound bus to Nashville. And while I was there studying, Rosa Parks came to speak at Fisk University. And I heard her. I met her. And Dr. King later heard through one of my teachers that I was in Nashville studying. So Martin Luther King Jr. got back in touch with me and told me when I was home for spring break to come and see him. So in March of 1958, by this time I'm 18 years old, I boarded a bus. I traveled from Troy to Montgomery. And a young lawyer by the name of Fred Gray, who was a lawyer for Rosa Parks, for Dr. King, and the people involved in the Montgomery bus boycott, met me at the Greyhound bus station and drove me to the First Baptist Church in downtown Montgomery, pastored by the Reverend Ralph Abernathy, and ushered me into the pastor's study. I saw Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy standing behind a desk. I was so scared, I didn't know what to say or what to do. And Dr. King said, "Are you the boy from Troy? Are you John Lewis?" And I said, "Dr. King, I am John Robert Lewis," but he still called me the boy from Troy. And he said, "If you want to go to Troy State College, we will support you. We may have to sue the state of Alabama. We may have to sue Troy State.
Exactly.
But we're prepared to help.
We all learning that, right?
Go back home and have a discussion with your mother, your father. Your home could be bombed." That's what he said. "Your home could be burned. Your family could lose their land. You could be beaten. You could be harmed." And I went back, had a discussion with my mother and my father. They were so afraid that something could happen to me, it could happen to them, or we could lose the land, lose the farm. So they didn't want to have anything to do with my attempting to enroll at the school.
When you are that age, you don't feel powerful. I remember realizing that with what we were doing, trying to abolish segregation, we were coming up against governors of southern states, judges, politicians, businessmen. And I remember thinking, I'm only 22 years old. What do I know? What am I doing? And I felt very vulnerable. So when we heard these newscasts that other cities were having demonstrations, it really helped because there were more of us. And it was very important.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was enacted by the 88th U.S. Congress and then signed into law by then President Lyndon B. Johnson on July 2nd, 1964. This bill was said to have been one of the weakest links in the power structure for equal rights concerning voter registration requirements, employment discrimination, and segregation in schools and other public places. In reaction to this Civil Rights Act bill, and with the loss to the Democrat Party preventing a new Democratic desegregated party from being accepted by the Democratic National Convention, from March 7th, 1965 to March 25th, 1965, 3 organizations decided to conduct a protest demonstration to draw awareness towards so-called Negroes wanting to exercise their constitutional right to vote. It was called the March from Selma to Montgomery. During this said march that lasted a total of 18 days, the three organizations that conducted and participated in this march were members of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Dallas County Voters League, along with members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. But during the second to the last day of the march, on March 23, 1965, a few SNCC members like Stokely Carmichael and Willie Ricks, for example, chose to abandon the march from Selma to Montgomery upon reaching Lowndes County, Alabama, speaking to the local residents of the town, and then orchestrating a meeting with a member of the organization called the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights by the name of John Hewlett, who was also a former member of the NAACP subdivision in Alabama. Stokely Carmichael, John Hewlett, William Ricks, and other SNCC members created a brand new independent political party known as the Black Panther Party in March of 1965, not to be confused with Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale's Black Panther Party that was adopted a year or two later by SNCC. This initial Black Panther Party was officially known as the Lowndes County Freedom Organization, or the LCFO for short. So during the James Meredith precedent, Stokely Carmichael and William Ricks and other members of SNCC and the Black Panther Party were met face to face with the golden opportunity of a lifetime, which was to be able to finally flip the narrative from Dr. King's nonviolent approach with Freedom Now to Stokely Carmichael's borrowed slogan, Black Power. While James Meredith was in the hospital, Stokely Carmichael met with Martin Luther King Jr., Floyd McKissick, and others, where they vowed to continue Meredith's march. And so the one-man march then became the March Against Fear. Having gained the media attention by aligning himself with Dr. King publicly during the march, just 10 days after the James Meredith precedent, on June 16, 1966, Stokely Carmichael purposely got himself arrested by police for trespassing on private property of the university. It was said that after immediately upon being released from police custody hours later, Stokely was instructed by William Ricks to give his Black Power speech in front of young students and the press in Greenwood, Mississippi, where he was quoted stating the following: "This is the 27th time I have been arrested, and I ain't going to jail no more. The only way we gonna stop them white men from whooping us is to take over. What we gotta start saying now is Black Power."
To use the term Black Power, SNCC had already decided this before the march. That must be properly understood. We decided to use the march for an education purpose. Number one, we wanted to push strongly our struggle against the war in Vietnam. So if people look clearly at the Meredith March, you will see anti-Vietnam propping up here. King wasn't using it then, but you will see this is one of the areas where we started to hit him with it seriously. Our march was to put strong nationalism in, to have direct leadership from us, and of course, to throw our Black Power for the mass of the people. Now, I myself had been in Greenwood, Mississippi since early '60. I'd worked in the project there, and when head of the second congressional district, this was our base. So I'd spent time in the jail in Greenwood so many times. The police knew me, the police chief knew me, everyone in the town knew me. So we decided Greenwood, it was SNCC's strongest base in the Delta. We couldn't go wrong. Unfortunately for the police, we went to set up some tents there, and the police decided to arrest me. Okay, so before I was arrested, we were discussing Greenwood. This is where we will launch Black Power. So when I got arrested, Ricks was on the side there when the police said, "Let them arrest you. We'll get you out of jail and you come out and make the speech tonight." And he disappeared. Well, you know how Ricks speaks. So anyway, I went to jail. But I was brought out, and when I was released, it was at night, the speech was going on, and when I came to the speech, I was in line. Ricks came back, he said, "We have everything prepared, we're ready for Black Power, we've spoke about it all day, we've primed up the people," and luckily for us, our biggest problem was Martin Luther King. because I knew that once Black Power was said, Martin Luther King would have to come, not fight against it, but with his best try to give reasonings to water it down. But luckily for us, the night in Greenwood, King had to go to do a taped television thing, I think, for Meet the Press. So he had to go to Memphis. So he was not there the night in Greenwood. Riggs had everybody primed. He said, just get to your speech. We're going against freedom now. We're going for Black Power. Don't hit too much on freedom now, but hit the need for power. So we built up on the need for power. And just when I got there, before I got it, Riggs was there saying, hit him now, hit him now. And I kept saying, give me time, give me time. When we finally got it and we dropped it, Black Power, of course, they had been primed and they responded immediately. But I myself, to be honest, I didn't expect that enthusiastic response, you know, and the enthusiastic response obviously not only shocked me, but gave me more energy to carry it on further. By the time we got down that night, SCLC was running around everywhere. We knew it was finished. We had made our victory. They could not bring it back. It was over.
Mute. You're on mute.
Many people were opposed to Stokely's motives and agendas, calling him radical and militant. In fact, SNCC itself was established under the principles of nonviolence by so-called blacks and so-called whites. And that fact becomes quite obvious when taking a look at SNCC's logo alone. But once Stokely gained control over SNCC as the chairman, the once Jamaican immigrant that lived amongst the whites during its childhood began purging all of SNCC's.
The Trinidadian immigrant, get it together.
How about leaves Kwame Ture alone if he wanted to take over SNCC and get SNCC back to its original form in his head? Leave him alone, let him do so. How about that?
Hello.
They had enough nonviolent organizations back then, okay?
Because of love, as we spoke upon time and time again, because of the fear. They had fear. How you want to tell somebody they're going to bomb your house? They're going to do, we know they're going to do this regardless. We, at that point in time, it was damn if we do, damn if we don't. And then what a lot of these children these days don't realize, that wasn't not too long ago. This was only in the 1960s. So this is like 50, 51, 52, 53 years old. Or maybe almost close to 60 years old.
But it's still going down today. So what difference does it make? You know what I mean? What has really been solved?
But to them, this is ancient. I'm like, no, this is not too long ago when we could not have vote. It was not ancient. This is not in the 18s and in the early 19s. This is mid to the end of the 60s, going into the 70s. So that'll only be close to 50 years old. So but the way they make it sound like the same way how when they was like some of the kids was brought up in different areas, the ones they was grooming for gatekeepers. So now these younger ones don't know that now they're gatekeepers. Sometimes you just don't know you're a gatekeeper. Your belief itself makes like that man yesterday talking about the crap about the respirations. I don't know if you saw that one or not yesterday, but I'm like, I know that man long gone, but if he was still here, I'd have pop him in the mouth.
Well,
because even if I'm not of somebody's race, if you speaking upon if your race is being done wrong, I'm gonna mind my business. Or even if it's containing my race, if I'm not able to put up, I'm gonna mind my business. I have so many mixed emotions, like sad and mad when I watch these, but I'm grateful for the less. Oh, you're more than welcome, Kiana. That's what me and a co-host do. And then the purpose of these videos was that, especially the next one, I made sure I pick short ones so I don't keep y'all out all night. So it's going by nice and quick, so I don't keep you up all night.
And here's the thing: they always trying to wage Kwame Ture as the enemy, like he did something wrong. He did stuff to benefit y'all.
Exactly. Yes, that's what bothers me, that it was not that long ago. My mom was born in 68. Wow, 68. She's 52. It seemed like not much has changed. She just made, I'm not that old, but I'm close to that old. She just made me feel old. Kiana could be my child. And your child too, Dr. Amir, but we still look good, don't we?
Yes,
We still look good.
I tell you this.
Her mother do too. Let's not exclude her mother. We looking good for hitting that big middle line soon.
Yeah. Well, I got about 2 more. After May, I have 2 more years.
Yeah, but you're still close. You're still close. That's why I say
I don't want to claim that yet now. Hold on. No, I ain't there yet now. Hold on now.
But you still look good.
Right. Thank you. So do you. But I got a little ways to go. But I tell you, but
like damn that, I'm gonna stay in these 40s long as I'm in here.
As long as I can stay in the 40s, I'm gonna stay in the 40s.
I said that about my 30s, and I don't even remember my 30s now. That's crazy.
Shit, I remember
non-colored members one by one.
The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that had been on the front line, the shock troops of the civil rights movement, led by a coalition of young white and black students, North and South. Stokely Carmichael gets control of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating and literally does what I call the Soviet Union style. He purges the organization of all white people, all white leaders, and to give a damn how dedicated you were. If you were white and you were a Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee when Stokely Carmichael came in, he said, you go back and work in your community. We want to have total control, Black Power. That was...
I agree with that.
That was...
but that's just my opinion.
A very destructive move. And it had consequences that rippled throughout the movement.
Stokely set out to raise awareness of wanting so-called Black Power by appearing in various meetings where the press...
Well, y'all was punked enough to let him. I mean, let's just keep it real. Y'all organization should have been taken over because y'all wasn't doing the right thing. How many alliances y'all always having with these other folk and not really getting much accomplished? I'm not saying that if those folks want to donate and they want to try to help it from the outside, but you can't dictate. See, the problem is we're letting a lot of folk in that is not bearing witness to the things that you've experienced. They'll try to run you and tell you what you ought to be doing when they are from the sidelines. And now they going back to their rich little neighborhoods and back to their mommies and daddies, and unable to understand what it is like to have the skin that we're in, you know. So that's the thing that has to be really looked at and have to be talked about. I mean, you can't have one without the other. You can't keep saying, you know, screaming, hey, we need to change, but yet you got all these folks in there not really willing to do some John Brown. We call it John Brown. You know what John Brown is. Y'all know who John Brown is. John Brown is a white slave master that you know, handled the slave, his fellow actors, his fellow people that was in on it, trying to create slavery, and he fought against them. I mean, really fought. He took his weapons and went out there and handled his scandal. You know what I mean? So you got to give somebody some John Brown. But see, the problem with a lot of them, for example, if me, you, and a white person went out and we said, hey, we're going to make a change, guess who's going to get arrested? And guess who's going to do more time? Us as the black folks. Okay, the white folks is going to be like, oh, well, they forced me into it. They're going to play victim just like
he's going
Timberlake
did. He's an adolescent going through a change of life. He was confused.
They kidnapped me. I was under the was that Patty Hearst? I was under the Patty Hearst, when you get kidnapped by your victim, you begin to start acting like them. So you're under that spell, just like her dumb self said that, and she was a lie. She was with it. Okay, when you get captured and you join ranks with your captor because you don't have a choice and you mentally get brainwashed, that's crap. They call it the Patty Hearst, and that's not Patty Hearst, but whatever.
But see, with me, my reasoning is, why should I have to fight with the people who family bloodline enslaved us? Y'all can deal with them yourself. You don't have to stand with, this is my opinion. We're gonna do Stockholm Syndrome. We're gonna definitely do Black Stockholm Syndrome, baby. I got that lined up. Each day is a different lesson. Then we're gonna always go into something else. Each day is a different lesson. But that's definitely Stockholm Syndrome. But my thing is, if y'all really want to stop it, and it's not right, you don't need me. You don't have to walk with me to change your people. This started from your line. That's like, I don't need nobody to discipline my kids. They can say, hey, don't do that, or put that down, or baby, that's not good. But it's up for me to discipline them. So why y'all haven't disciplined your own people? But y'all want to claim that you walked with us and you helped us. And if it wasn't for your people, we wouldn't be in this predicament. So if you want to stop it, you did not need for us to start any type of movement for you to control your people. And
that was what the problem was with King, because King really originally didn't start off really, he didn't want to really do this. King's church pushed him into doing this, right, because originally who was ahead of King's church was Vernon Jones. Vernon Jones was very radical. He was way more, and he worked also along with the Deacons of Self-Defense, but that's on a whole nother level. So y'all need to research Vernon Jones. Vernon Jones was way more revolutionary than Dr. King ever could be.
They said a little bit of that in the beginning, but I'll check out his pastor. But even regardless of what we are, I just don't feel the need for them to say, nighty night, Sister Davis. Don't forget to catch the replay. I just don't feel like I need you want us to be thankful? I just get mixed feelings about that all the time. But if we're gonna let this little bit of place, we can go on to the next one.
Right. Give me a second. I'm getting ready
and by
to go
soliciting door to door, enticing the poor people residing in Mississippi to go register and vote.
How you doing, Ms. Dunn?
Fine.
How's everything going?
It's fine.
Good. I want to talk to you a little about, May 3rd, what we're going to do. So Logan, who's running against Mr. Favors for sheriff, and we'll pick one of them. And if we get one of those candidates picked, then on November 8th, their names will go on the ballot box and we'll vote on the list for Black Panther. So in November, okay, well, you know what we're going to do on May 3rd?
Oh, I think so.
What are we going to do on May 3rd?
We're going over and try to get organized for the ready for November election. Is that right?
Now we can vote for our people, because we have to use our vote to get out the cotton fields.
That's right.
And we can't get out the cotton field voting for the boss, man. We got to vote for people who've been in the cotton fields like ourselves, and they're the ones who are going to bring us out of the cotton field. Because I guess you've been hearing what everybody's been saying about us across the country. Have you heard what they said? Now the law says that you can't vote in ours and also vote in the Democratic primary, which has to be held on the same day according to the law. So what we'll have to do is vote on one and not the other. So if you want to vote for our candidates for sheriff, for tax assessor, tax collector, coroner, and the school board, then you have to vote for us. If not, you can vote for governor and for the same people in the Democratic Party.
Being just a year older in age than Stokely Carmichael, SCLC's staff leader, Bernard Lafayette, shares a very important message concerning the term Black itself, and how many people were opposed to its usage amongst the so-called Negroes during that time period.
When I was growing up, to call a person of color like myself or others, black, was considered derogatory. That's just a fact. You call somebody black, those were fighting words. Those were fighting words.
So what was going on here was that the college students were manipulated by Stokely Carmichael and many of his closest colleagues to believe that the use of the term black is highlighting their group of people by way of their skin complexions, inadvertently grouping themselves into a mental status structure that not only bears negative connotation, but more importantly, it also makes them null and void or non-existent when it comes to law of the American government.
I feel that while believing firmly that power is necessary, that it would be difficult for me to use the phrase black power because of the connotative meaning that it has for many people.
The majority of the people that were associated with campaigning black power to these students did not relate to any struggles with poverty and or direct racial discrimination personally. So this exposes why someone needed to negate Dr. King's Freedom Now movement and transition the public's attention to a Black Power campaign, revealing that the campaign's method was politically used for the purpose to mentally and emotionally target only the Nijis of Turtle Island for self-degradation and self-condemnation, which makes things even deeper. Because we can now determine without a doubt that Stokely and his fellow colleagues were set to breach the Niji civil rights movement that was currently underway, steering the main attention away from unity, human rights, and nonviolence.
You're on mute.
I'm gonna give my own opinion, but I don't like none of that was said at the end, like he was a plant or something. But go ahead, please enlighten the people, because we got some people in here like Kiana. This is like her first time hearing this. She has no, she's learning information. So, try to break it down to her, like, because this is her first time hearing it.
Okay, so anytime you have two opposites attract, this is going to happen. So, of course, looking from perspective, he might come off as a plant because, look at who they were working for and look who they were working with. Dr. King done already told y'all already know about that march on Washington. Let me go to this. The March on Washington was created by really, guess who? By President Kennedy. That was really President Kennedy's idea. And he gave because they wanted to keep the Negroes together. They wanted to keep them right, okay? And to calm them down. Dr. King was set to calm them down, okay? So President Kennedy gave them $6 million to split 6 ways. Okay, so of course, he's going to disagree with the word Black Power. Of course, he's going to disagree with anything that's against what he's trying to do, because he had an agenda, and look who he was working for and with. Okay, and so you're going to have these kinds of energies, and you're going to have this disagreement. And the moment you don't agree with people in the movement, what they do is they'll try to label you an agent. That's the first thing out their mouth. Oh, you're an agent, because you're not following what they deem is right, or because you don't agree with them or agree with the way that they're handling things, which made sense. Of course, if you're having the lumpenproletarian and the poor people of the community You can't tell the poor people of the community not to fight back. I mean, they have nothing to lose at this point. They have to have some type of rights. They have to have some type of way of not fitting in. And to be honest with you, it benefited for them to include the so-called Negro back then. It definitely benefited the Republican Party to get more of them to vote to come in. So of course the Republicans were pushing for this. Democratic Party, which a lot of people don't know, was not. Okay,
right.
So it made sense for them to push the agenda to make them fight for being together as opposed to being separate but not equal. You know what I mean? Because guess what? You get rid of a lot of black dollars. You get rid of black people having businesses. You get rid of black dentists. You get rid of a lot of black hospitals that we had and a lot of things that we had on our own because we didn't really need them, right? And so the moment that you start making them and putting them in a position of fighting for their so-called rights, and which we still don't have them today if you really look at it. You know, we still are being mistreated and beaten and lynched and all these types of things that's happening to us. So really, civil rights really didn't do a bit of nothing for us. So,
and then they had the nerve to say he manipulated. I want you to touch on
he didn't manipulate. He told them right off that he told them beforehand. He told them, hey, y'all are weak. He told that Lewis character. He said, hey, homie, you weak and you're not handling business, right? So therefore, we need to get a new regime. He told them that up front. So he didn't manipulate it. He said it right out of his mouth. He said, this group is not revolutionary enough. This group is not really pushing the issues. So how is that a manipulation if he says it right off? And then once everybody start hearing what he's talking about and the moves that he's making, guess what? They vote him in and vote Lewis Cat out. How about that? Kwame Ture let him know what it was out of his own mouth. So it's not manipulation. It's not like he lied. He didn't lie.
I'm gonna throw in a little interview. I'm gonna throw in a little interview of Carmichael, but then I get to the last one. It's still short. How you doing, Dissector? And what's her name? Black and white are statuses, so I don't know who I am or my true heritage, so I can create. Girl, you better keep watching this. You better keep watching this, because you know who you are. You gonna know who you are on here. You're gonna definitely know who you are on here. So now I got to add this in there because I was just intrigued by that. And I came across a lot of these interviews I haven't watched in many moons. But I'm finding all these things. So it's good to have not heard it in a while, because now you hear it with a new set of ears. A new set of eyes too. The eyes don't work the same no more. But a new set of ears and a new set of eyes.
But you have to look at how everything is now, and it's really disheartening because we have so much infighting within our own groups, you know, because of religious beliefs, because everybody want to separate because of religious beliefs. And then once we finally figure out, okay, we remove religion, we take religion out the picture, but then we're fighting on you're lighter than I am. Basically the really Lynch-isms. Okay, so we're fighting on that principle, and we can't get past the old and the young. And I'm not listening to you because you young, you know, as opposed to I'm not listening to you because what you say don't make sense. But how about give a person a chance, you know? So within these organizations, you know, we're trying to join.
I'm educated. You're not educated, and I'm like, well, we're gonna go into this. We're gonna go. This is only part one. Yes, indeed. You can digest things differently over time. Yes. And this is only part one. This ain't the whole thing. So we're just going to check this out. Oh, after I unmuted.
Known as Stokely Carmichael. Stokely was born in Trinidad, but spent most of his life in the United States of America
And
like fellow West Indian Marcus Garvey, he made his
Lewis
greatest
Funeral,
contribution to the
what
black
you call it,
struggle in the
took
United
shots at
States.
him.
A revolutionary political activist, Carmichael's name is synonymous with Black Power, the Black consciousness movement that swept the US in the 1960s. He was a leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and for a brief period joined the Black Panther Party. Later, he founded the All-African People's Revolutionary Party and remained its leading voice until his death in November 1998. Black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, socialist, revolutionary, Stokely Carmichael was a fierce and uncompromising defender of African dignity, pride, and humanity. Today we look at the thoughts and philosophy that drove this soldier of the African freedom struggle. To help us with this task is an outstanding activist scholar.
Can you guys
Dr.
hear?
Jacqueline Lynch.
Good.
The thoughts and philosophy of Stokely Carmichael.
I can hear
That's our
pretty
show
good.
on
Thank
today's
you.
edition of Carib Nation. Don't go anywhere. Carib Nation is up next.
Oh Lord, let me hurry up. That's all I need for that to be a copyright damn song.
Caribbean.
You gotta remember, it doesn't. It to me. You say, so why does it take one from a different parts of the world to raise a real Black nationalist and to show how the power? Because we all are one. At the end of the day, we all one. We just dropped off at a different plantation.
I know that, but the point is how a lot of people will try to say is that where they're from a different part of the world, they can't speak on what's going on in America and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm just saying, so if your issue is that, then why does it take? So it brings me back to the question of why does it take someone outside of this so-called country, right, to speak their minds and to raise consciousness amongst the people to establish a Black nationalist? Why does it take that?
He was 11. Yeah, I remember he was here since he was 11.
I know, but I'm just making a point. So why does I know that, but I'm talking about why does it take that? That's the point that they always try to raise. I've heard that in a lot of circles. I've heard a lot of people say that. So I'm just asking the question, why does it take all that if it's so bad? If we need this, if it's so wrong for people on the so-called outside, let me do the quotes. Show you my quote. So why does it take a so-called person outside of the country to express that this is a problem? How come people within the states express that this is not? That, because why? Fear. It goes back to fear. It goes back to conditioning. It goes back to methodology. It goes back to systematic. It goes back to the way you were saying earlier about how a lot of people were raised, and they was raised to fit this condition. Oh, baby, no, don't you say nothing. The master gonna come after you, gonna get you. If you better not say nothing, you better not say nothing. You know what I mean? So that happens. So I'm just saying that we have to stop. There has to stop being an excuse made. I mean, stand up or get on shit on the toilet. I mean, what you gonna do?
And a lot of them states and a lot of countries, Britain is they're now finished getting from under Britain's tight grip. Not a lot of them is for. I think some places in China is just. I mean, you know what makes me laugh? Because I like my African movies and stuff, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they show the parts when they in court, and I'm like, this continent of Africa, why you got on a white
Look like they from England because they still with the system, because they still with the UK system.
I mean, that is sad every time. Do you know they money got Queen Elizabeth on it?
Yeah, they still with it. They still with the UK. They still paying tithes to the Queen. Yeah. She's still getting her cut. They can say they separated through the colonies. That's a lie. They can separate it, but they still giving her money. How about that?
That's gonna be that's gonna be a whole. We're gonna have to get into that. But people just need to know that. People think that, oh, these countries, no, they are still being owned by
They're still being
Britain.
controlled. You can tell though. I mean, how could people not know that? I mean, you gotta be Helen Keller somebody. How could you not know that? Hey, I'm just keeping it real. They Helen Keller. No.
A lot of people don't know
because they don't want to know. Okay.
Well, it never crossed their mind to know about about the Commonwealth and them still being owned by because they figuring this is African countries and these countries. It just never crossed their mind. But you can tell
by the way they move. You can tell by the way they move, and you can tell by the reason why they've gotten rid of certain so-called dictators. You know what I mean? Some of these so-called dictators that they said because they wanted to put their own people in play. You know what I mean? They uplift these dictators, and then they'll and then once they start doing the separation thing, then America be like, wait a minute now, what you trying to separate? Now I done gave you this money, I told you what to do. And the moment they fall out of pocket with America all of a sudden sends somebody over there to assassinate them, or they say, oh, they're doing something illegal, or they're not working with America, or you know.
Right. They had an accident.
Right.
You know,
like you're not doing it right.
They tripped and their car went over. But I'm just saying, out of this like talk, just people, I pretend people don't know. So now we're here to make sure they do know. I don't want to make nobody feel like, you know, they should have known. Some people just don't.
So let me say it in layman's terms. You should know that UK is still getting paid. You can tell that by the way America is set up. You can tell by the way that when they still travel over here and how friendly it is and how friendly they are to the British, to the so-called Queen.
Do a survey, and I guarantee you a lot of people don't know.
Okay, well, let me tell you, you need to know.
But they do need to know. That's what we're here for.
And don't act like nobody didn't tell you, and don't in this live or computer and get home and tomorrow we talk about something else and you act like you don't remember.
What she's trying to say is once you know, pass it, pass the message. Teach your kids, teach the youth around you, teach people so they will know.
But they tell you, but let me just tell you by looking on the dollar bill, looking on the $5 bill, looking on any coins, you would know that. Looking on the way, if you watch the news, you know that. But maybe people don't watch news.
You don't. You know. That don't mean they know.
I'm just saying, if you watch the news,
they do watch it. They don't know. Some people don't know.
They don't want to know.
They don't want to know. But I mean, they don't know.
I'm just saying, yeah.
They don't know. Some people
go to the news.
Well, they got all these distractions. They have so many distractions now, and it's crazy, especially with the entertainment business. They got so many distractions now that it's like.
Okay, so let me put a disclaimer out here.
How my man said in the end was evil. They just don't know. Oh, they just don't care.
Ice Cube. Yeah, famous Ice Cube line. But listen, let me tell y'all something. Kanye and Pepper, T.I. or Tip to Lula does not represent us. The more and more y'all stop listening to these silly celebrities. You see, Nick Cannon had the backpedal his language because he had our homeboy on there, Professor Griff. And you see, he had the backpedal because the Jewish people or community do not like him because of what he said a long time ago, what he constantly says when he was with Public Enemy.
It wasn't that. It's just that everything he said was absolutely true.
Yes, but it was also because they have an issue with him, which for centuries, for a long time, they've had an issue with him when he did that conversation or speech when he was in Public Enemy at one of the concerts.
But his mouth got, well, listen, he read the book that was in the book, and he just quoted was in the book. That was that. But he didn't have nothing to do with what came out of his mouth. And when
but Nick Cannon shouldn't even interviewed him if that was the case. I mean, I don't understand why he even did that just to go and backpedal, and he would have never had to backpedal.
Be quiet. Oh yeah. Matter of fact, Professor Griff wasn't even kicking knowledge like that. He wanted to show that he was just as smart as Professor Griff, and then that's what messed him up.
Yeah,
he wanted to show, I know this too. I read this book too. I'm
they
smart.
would have still said something to him, but he wouldn't have been as much so-called trouble by having he would have been in trouble by having him on there, but it wouldn't have been that much of an issue provided that
his trouble was when he said we are the real Jews.
Yeah, but it was the fact of having that they have a long hate relationship. I'm telling you.
I know that, but if I lived through it, I know it. If he did not say the fact of who the real Jews was, he would never have been in trouble.
He could have said in trouble anyway, but not as bad. It wouldn't have been as bad.
Not like that, because now
bad, but not as bad.
No, because you got to remember, people are waking up to that now. So now you put that spark back in them. You put that spark back in them. So that's what. But either way, he had a backpedal and a couple of other interviews. He always got to show that he's smart. We know you're smart. We know you're smart. We know you're intelligent. We know you're not just a goofy guy that you get paid to be. But I hear some ice calling me, so I'm gonna let this play.
Scholars and activists.
Let me know
who have
guys
played on the world stage. Am I correct in doing so?
But I think so, and you have other
we
people
can
like
hear it.
Michael
Go ahead, get your
Stilwell,
ice.
Ivanhoe Donaldson, and Cortland Cox, who were colleagues and worked with. You also have people like Blyden in the 19th century who came here and played a major role in the shaping of this democracy.
He was from the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yes, right. So there's always been a connection between the Caribbean and the struggles of the people in the Caribbean and the United States and North America. Toussaint Louverture and the Haitian Revolution influenced undoubtedly the slave revolts here of Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, and Nat Turner, and many others in the early part of the 19th century. So there's always been that linkage. So Kwame Ture is consistent inside of that historical tradition in the New World, in the Americas, where one has that integrity and courage and dignity with regard to the ongoing processes of revolutionary struggle.
His major contribution to political thought and action was the whole question of Black Power. Let's talk a little bit about Black Power, both within the context of the 1960s Black struggle here in the United States and further afield, but also in the context of that long tradition of struggle starting way back in the period of slavery.
Yeah, well, from the very beginning, from the Middle Passage, from the castles of West Africa, the places where Africans were enchained and housed, there's always been a resistance. Resistance has always been an integral part of the experience of the African, resistance against the condition under which, the humiliating condition under which he or she had been exposed or had been indicted to. And that is the question of slavery. The essence of that experience of resistance is the qualitative determination to be in charge of one's destiny, to define oneself, to define one's place and hunger, to take that environment and give it shape, give it destiny, give it morality, give it integrity. And in so doing, that exudes power. Any time an individual or a group of people or a nation of people are prepared to make themselves clearly understood and known about who they are and what they represent and where they come from, that is a statement of power. And prior to that notion of Black power, it had always been felt by the dominant forces in American society, by whites, through their educational institutions, through their religion, through their political institutions, etc. That power was not something that Black people could accrue to because they were brought here as slaves. But they never accepted the notion of being impotent. And consequently, there always had been developed a sense of power that manifested itself in Harriet Tubman, that manifested itself in Sojourner Truth, that manifested itself in Frederick Douglass, that manifested itself in Cinque, that manifested itself in Kwame Ture, in Assata Shakur, in whoever. We have been people, and that power has been manifested spiritually, politically, aesthetically, and in the arena of politics.
So when Stokely made that cry for Black power there in the 1960s, he was taking that struggle that resistance that you spoke about to what, a higher level?
Yes, he was certainly taking it to a higher level. And it frightened the nation, it frightened the journalists. It was something that was beyond cliche. You know, at the time, the civil rights movement had already established certain cliche statements. You know, we would not be turned around, we would not be moved, which were powerful statements coming out of the tradition of spirituals and folk songs and so on, which were self-determining statements and songs and sermons from preachers. However, when he talked about Black power, it took it to another level. You see, he went to the mountaintop, to use the cliche of Dr. King, but the newspapers couldn't grasp it, and therefore what they wanted to do is to create a controversy around it so that it would self-destruct. You see, so all kinds of interpretation. What do you mean by that?
What did he mean by Black power?
He simply meant the assertion to state one's political identity, one's political capacity, one's political representation in a space that belonged to Black people.
So it was more than just political rhetoric. It was an affirmation of culture.
An affirmation of everything.
It was economic.
Yes.
It was all embracing.
That's right. That's right.
And the people who had been marching to the beat of the civil rights movement with Dr. King suddenly woke up, and here was something new before them. How did they react?
I'm not even sure it was new. I believe that it was always in the conscience of the masses of the people.
Okay.
But once they heard it, they clicked on. And therefore they took it and ran with it. They began to say it and affirm it and assert it, so that what Kwame did was just to create that wellspring of power inside of people that allowed them to go to the next stage. That was done in the Haitian Revolt. That was done in the Palmares in Brazil. That was done historically in the assertion of Sojourner Truth, who spoke before an all-white audience and says, "Ain't I a woman?"
I got that book
See what I'm saying?
too.
That was done by Ida
I gotta
B. Wells.
read it again.
See what I'm saying? And
I
the
got
people
that
took it
one
because it was
too.
already with them.
I gotta find them books.
Because one cannot engage in that kind of historical
I ain't got that
struggle
one.
against that kind of oppression and that kind of, you know, we were up against the government, we were up against paramilitary forces, we were up against the Klan, we were up against everything.
about that
the newspapers, we were up against the world. But had within us, once it was said, once it was affirmed, and one only affirms these things because they are the
I got
result
that
of
one.
other people's feelings at that point in time. You see.
When Kwame, they made the battle cry for Black Power, and the masses of African people in this country and also outside of this country, in the Caribbean, in Africa, began to hold on to this cry and to move with it. What exactly was he doing for the whole Pan-Africanist concept?
Well, you must remember the two things. One, the 1946 conference, Manchester Conference, which asserted that Africa would be independent and free within a short space of time, and in which Du Bois and Nkrumah and Padmore and others
Move your
began to lay the
finger so they
groundwork
can see the
for
name
what
of the
would
book.
take place in Ghana and West Africa.
There we go.
The coming out of prison
There we go.
by Kwame Nkrumah, who himself asserted Black Power.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? In his political campaigns, that was the affirmative cry. Do you see what I'm saying? Without dealing with the words now. It was the same thing, that we were going to take over the gold coast, and that we would change it, and we would bring the kingdom of Ghana back onto the African landscape. We would Africanize the entire continent. You see, and that's what inspired. So in 1958, that had already taken place, which inspired Lumumba and Kenyatta and others to go forward. Again, the assertion, so that between 1958 in Ghana, between
my cover don't look like that.
65, 66, as Carmichael begins to move people to another level, and you've got to understand too that the other part of it too, that he was a very young man.
Yes,
and this inspired young people. You know, this was the voice of young people. You know, moving beyond the veil, breaking through in a society. Do you see what I'm saying? That had never dared to believe that a voice so young could be so powerful. Do you see what I'm saying? And that was very real. So that Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Toure, Nelson Mandela, Eric Williams, and Norman Manley in the Caribbean, the Pan-African voice everywhere was, and Stokely just simply picked it up and breathed it. He gave the word its definition. He spoke the word. And therefore, when the word went out, which had already belonged to the people, I remember now, you know, African nations, one after another, became independent between 1958 and 1970. Do you see? It led us in the assertion of the music of John Coltrane. It led us into the assertion of the music of Archie Shepp. It led us into the assertion of Max Roach and others who were talking about freedom now sweet, of James Brown, who was saying, open the door. You know, all of that was the groundswell, and Carmichael was the voice, was the person who touched everyone at that moment in time, and it reflected and manifested itself all over the African world.
When Carmichael spoke about Black Power, he was talking about Black self-development, developing the Black economy. He was talking about the linking up of people here in the Americas with their heritage in Africa. But let's talk about the economics of it, because I think that is sometimes lost on people. Elaborate for us on the economic aspect of Black Power.
There are two problems. One, coming out of slavery, in which our labor had been totally exploited. It was an uphill battle to develop economic empowerment from, in this country, 1866 to 1958. It was an uphill battle. However, in that uphill battle, Black people were able, in a segregated world, to develop that economic power. Right? At that point in time in the civil rights movement, we moved to another legal stage in the battle, in we wanted to not only strengthen what was done inside of the Black community economically, but we wanted to eliminate the barriers of not just segregation in terms of education and health and housing, etc., but the barriers that had been established in the economic.
Oh, I love that book. You
And
know,
it was
I
very
got that
obvious
one.
that since we had played a major part, Black people had played a major part in building this nation from its inception right up through the 50s, in its military industrial complex, in its agricultural sector, in its industrial growth, accelerated industrial growth. We played a major part in it as labor. Then it meant that we had to now move from that level into a level where we could have a stronger economic base in the society in the 60s, so that it was not simply give me all the keys to the political kingdom and everything will come afterwards. Carmichael was concerned both with building a sustainable, viable, and strong economic base on the history that had developed, and as well as political institutions and academic and intellectual institutions that could provide the infrastructure for that. What happened and why it became dangerous.
Now you didn't even get a chance to hear what the man was saying, right? Was you able to hear him?
Yeah, I'm in the same room.
Okay. Okay, so because I'm only gonna play half of this because I'm not gonna play all three of these. But how did you feel about what he was saying?
I feel like he has some good points. I think he has some good points. He just let them know what it is. I mean, but I think that because I think I like the way Kwame Ture breaks things down, and I would have rather heard it from his perspective.
I'm gonna get that, but you know, I like that's why we're gonna go further into all of these different things, but you know, we're gonna stick on this because they're not ready. They're not ready. They're not ready. They're not ready. We gotta ease them there. We gotta ease them there. Not saying that you guys are ready, but you know, some people we talk a little bit advanced. But I like the part in here that he made it for me, the way I see it, is he made it more of about Black people, like melanated people, not just like the United States. So there. Because until we all come together, that's why they keep us so far apart. They keep us separated. They keep you thinking you're Jamaican. They keep you thinking you're Canadian. They keep you thinking that, you know, you're Brazilian, or they keep you thinking that you're Spanish, or they keep you thinking that you're Dominican, which they know they got, some of them got more melanin in a little bit, and they get highly upset. Them people, they just hate every part of their melanin because the Spaniards that came and raped and robbed them and gave them their language, so they, in their mind, they feel that they Spanish, but they just as melanin as you and me. But when all of us start locking in and fighting together, and that's one thing JMJ was doing. That's one thing JMJ was doing. He was bringing all of the people from all around together. That's why he had to be stopped, actually, because we got to realize, just like that man said, now I'm saying that man, what is James Bowen said, we are not the minority, you guys are. Y'all just the minority here, but we're the minority around the world. And until we start recognizing that and believing that, we're going to always have problems. Yes, PR has the same issue big time. See, with the Puerto Ricans, there's more. A lot of them was really raped by Spaniards. We still have the Black Puerto Ricans, but a lot of them was raped by Caucasians and the Spaniards. That's why it's more lighter than, especially like the ones in Cuba and the ones in Puerto Rico. So some of them don't have the melanin. Some of them are Spaniard and Caucasian. Some are Spaniard, Some of them, they the whole melt. I asked a lot of people in there is a whole melting pot. Some of them are Spaniard, Indian, and melanin at the same time. So I had the whole melting pot in it. But
yeah, it could be an argument on that now, depending on who you talk to, as far as the what I call the red blood, because they are indigenous people. Because I mean, you can't call them Native American because they were already here. We were already here.
And it wasn't even America, but at the end of the day, they still came from somewhere,
Right.
which is Africa. They still came from Africa long before anybody was here, and they settled here. So, and then we learned the land, and then the Caucasians came in, and then they brought us in. We was here way long before them. My grandfather, pure black Puerto Rican, but would claim Spanish. Hey, we got our black people that claim Jamaican. We got our black people that claim Trinidadian. We got our black. Everybody want to claim the island that enslaved them. They want to claim the island that enslaved. But when it works for them, or they want to write a song, then it's my Africa. Now they want to put Africa in their songs and stuff like that. When it comes down to wanting to make money off Africa, or now we all one, I'm like, whatever. But I want to get to the school system, because that went with the last video that I had. And then we are finished.
Yeah, I'm trying not to. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna let you.
No, you can say what you have to say. You can say what you have to say.
Let me say this. Okay, no, go to the next video. I'll pause for the call.
I'm setting up, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. I'm gonna say something different. The reason why I was showing a lot of folks these books is because I think it's very important for us and everybody on here to start a library into your home. And it makes sense for your children because a lot of these books are out of print and will go out of print. Okay. So some of them you may have to buy used. Okay. But it's very, my uncle also written a book called The New World Order. So I also have that book. Is on the shelf. I have to find it. Some of these books I have to look through because we got so many books here. It's ridiculous. Okay. I probably got over 2,000, 3,000 some odd books. Not including my ebooks that I have, and we have read them over the years because a lot of times back in my youth, I used to spend time in a bookstore. I used to damn near sleep there, and I would be when my children would go off on the weekends. I would be over to my mother's house. I would just spend Saturday and Sunday damn near at this bookstore, and I would just read. And it was a black owner or melanated owner, and he would just let me engulf these books, and I would buy a whole bunch. I used to spend a lot of money at this bookstore, and I would just sit there and just read and read and read. I've been reading, and my mother was a school teacher, so I would read a lot of these books. A lot of these books my parents had. My mother had some books, when I was coming up, so I would engulf a lot of this. And it's very important to educate our children in what is going on in the system, because everything that's in these type of books, I have my struggle with this book, but that's another conversation. We would have to do a whole video to break down why I have a struggle with this book. But
what is the name of the book? So they tell the people.
Season Time. Written by Bobby
Season
Seale. Bobby Seale. Okay. And so, in reading a lot of this book, and this book also, this is a really good book. It talks about the Haitian Revolution. Okay. So this is also a really good book for a lot of people to read.
The title of the book, please. Can you tell us? Some people can't see. The black, but I can't see.
Hold on.
You know what? I'm gonna get you. You ain't put no part of the back Jacobins. But When you put it in, it was only one little part. You got it good.
I know,
now.
I know. I had to look. I had to look at it because it's kind of hard to do this and look and try to see if it's right. But anyway, this is a pretty decent book, but it's just important for us to educate our children and ourselves as well, and to get them to know so they can operate within the society, especially that one book that I showed you all is called Nigger Bible, the Nigger Bible. So that's really, really important. This man basically sat on a train and basically broke down to his son about what it's like to be black on this land, in the way that he has to maneuver in a certain way. So I thought it was a pretty good book. So I gave my sons those books to read, and there's a lot of great books out there that, that I also have books that you should give your daughters so they don't end up like the folks at Corbin Nation. I also have books like that I read to my daughter, that I gave my daughter to read. Definitely empowering. So I'll show you that when you do your run through. I'll just put it on the screen and y'all listen. I'm still gonna be listening because I'm still in the same room. So, but that's all. You got the little you got it up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna pause. I mean, not pause. I'm a mute. Excuse me.
Okay. I'm just here to make you think.
My very first full-time teaching job was at Tougaloo College. That's Touga. It's not a very well-known college up here in Washington, D.C., but it's a good college, very good, and it's in Mississippi, and it's African-American. So I'm teaching the courses I expected to be teaching in sociology, but I'm also pressed into service to teach one section of a course called the Freshman Social Science Seminar. So this was a course that had been invented by the history department, in fact, and it was a required course, and it introduced students to, the drill, psych, poli-sci, econ, soc, etc. And it did this in the context of African-American history. It made sense, 99% of our students being African-American. Well,
we're going to be covering that stuff too, but in March.
So second semester begins not only right after Christmas,
next week, Red Queen.
Right after the Civil War. So second semester begins. I have a new group of 17 students that first day of class. I don't want to do all the talking that first day. So I asked my students, okay, what happened during Reconstruction right after the Civil War? What went on there? And what happened to me was an aha reaction, or I might better call it a no reaction, because 16 out of my 17 students said to me, that's the time when, right after the Civil War, Reconstruction, blacks took over the government of the southern states, but they were too soon out of slavery, and so they screwed up, and white folks had to take control again.
Birth of a Nation,
Exactly.
the 1903 movie.
Birth of a Nation, Gone with the Wind, all rolled into one. Birth of a Nation, Gone with the Wind, all rolled into one. And of course, these are all African-American students. I thought, my gosh, what must it do to you to believe that the one time your group was center stage in American history, they screwed up? Now, it'd be a different matter if this happened, but it didn't happen. This is, in fact, what we in sociology call BS history. That is bad sociology. BS history. That is bad sociology. They started the public school systems for both races. There were scattered schools for white folks, but no system that included the whole state. And of course, there were no schools at all for black folks. It was illegal, a felony, to teach even free blacks to read and write. So they didn't screw up. So anyway, I went to nearby schools. I watched, this was just before massive school desegregation, so I watched black teachers teaching all black classes this white supremacist history that was complete BS, because they were just teaching what was in the book. Because they were just teaching what was in the book. Because they were just teaching what was in the book. Because they were just teaching what was in the book. Because they were just teaching what was in the book. Because they were just teaching.
What is
Before we begin this segment, let's start with the 1828 Webster's Dictionary definition of the noun American, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Millions of people of color residing in North America are under the illusion that the United States public educational system and its schools has been with us forever, when it is merely an innovation of the late 17th century, whose introduction was frequently resisted with violence towards the people of color, who are in fact the direct descendants of the indigenous people of the lands now called the Americas. Indigenous Aboriginal people were forcefully taught about the topic of American history, and more importantly, their history, by way of foreign teachings and later illustrations deriving from industrialized institutions throughout the mid-1600s and beyond. These institutions were ordered to legally plagiarize their publications from the likes of some very eminent key individuals which were responsible for delivering a form of idiosyncratic, unscrupulous manipulation towards the rebellious revolutionaries whom they attempted to keep enslaved during that time period, while simultaneously colonizing their indigenous lands. Fast forward really quick to today. There are hundreds of history books that were written, and what is very important to note, these history books all go through a, quote, provisional process before printing and publication. This same organization that carries out this provisional process is ironically in control of what each book presents as historical representation of subjects concerning world history, American history, and many other topics, not to exclude the one they call African American history. This independent organization is known as the American Textbook Council, based out of New York City, controlling and rewriting the modernized literatures inside of all American public schools, and especially the history books, since the year of 1988. Also, the American Textbook Council works hand in hand with the federalized institution called the Department of Historic Resources, which just so happens to be the same organization in control of what stories are framed onto those historic markers you see all across the country. The initial step of this tactic was the firm establishment of these ever so popular institutions called the public schools. The public schools, along with their public educational system, was specifically designed to diminish students' capacity for critical thinking, decimate literacy, and to eliminate any alleged dangerous signs of independence and creativity, which might otherwise contribute unpredictable and burdensome aspects to the task of corporate management and planning from the likes of white supremacists. These public schools for copper-colored people were at the mercy of the white-controlled and operated state governments for funding, and federalized funding came later on during the late 1800s, in which I'll get into in a sec. Many of the white settlers did not want the so-called African Americans, or rather indigenous aborigines, to become educated, fearing they would challenge white supremacy and not be content with jobs working in the fields or in other forms of domestic service, deriving from the parallelism of industrialism. Therefore, public schools for the so-called African Americans received far less financial support systematically than any of the all-white schools during its beginning stages of establishment. In fact, they had the worst-looking school buildings inside and out, the fewest books to utilize, and many of the copper-colored teachers were not paid for their work, but those who were compensated little to nothing as their salaries, compared to the white teachers' salaries within the surrounding towns and counties. Soon after King James I of England commissioned the King James Version of the Biblical Scriptures, also known as the KJV Bible, in 1611, the Church of England was ordered to establish an organization, then called the Society for Propagation of the Gospel in Foreign Parts. Their mission was to send European colonists to North America to teach the Indians, or rather the indigenous copper-colored people, one-directional formats of European religious beliefs and cultures. This was also a historically well-known method to halt the thousands of Indian rebellious raids from occurring in order for the Europeans to settle and colonize the Americas. So, by the late 1630s, pastors, ministers, reverends, and priests of many denominations of the Christian religious societies, i.e., Orthodox, Catholics, Baptists, and especially Lutherans, were all responsible for providing an industrialized public education for the children of color and their parents. For example, in the year of 1636, a Dutch Christian minister by the Latin name of Everardus Bogardus, along with another Dutch Reformed Church master teacher from Holland, provided the indigenous Aborigines of color Lutheran religious training, also known then as an education, all across the Manhattan Island, located in a place called New Netherlands by the Europeans, which is now called today the.
So how do you find your MVPs?
Side note, this is in fact the very first documented example of European educational efforts directed towards the indigenous people of color in Turtle Island, aka North America. In the year of 1695, Samuel Thomas, a British Baptist reverend, established the very first official public school for the indigenous people of color in a place then called Goose Creek Parish, known today as North Charleston, South Carolina. Then, a Catholic reverend by the name of Dr. Thomas Bray opened a school for the enslaved Aborigines in Maryland in 1696, followed by a French minister named Eli No, who also opened a school for the enslaved Aborigines in New York City in 1704. What did they teach inside of these schools, you ask? Well, besides the obvious that many religious beliefs were indoctrinated by force into these schools for the indigenous people, according to historical records, children of color were immersed into Caucasian European cultures by way of appearance changes, with haircuts, forbidden to speak their native languages, and even their traditional names were replaced with European American names to, quote, civilize and Christianize their ways of life. In numerous demonic ways, the indigenous Aborigines were violently forced to abandon their true identities and cultures systematically. Throughout this time period, all of these public schools, including the multiple boarding schools founded by the Bureau of Indian Affairs during the 18th and 19th centuries, were fully infested with harsh malevolence and dark experiences, especially for the younger Aborigine children, who were separated from their families for longer than enough time periods throughout the days of the weeks, which is now known as school hours of operation. Independent investigations were established by both the federal and local governments of each state of America, revealing mostly hidden multiple documented cases of sexual, manual, physical, and even mental abuse occurring inside of these public, private, and boarding schools that were established in America, all of which the indigenous Aborigine children were victimized, according to public records held by the National Archives in England and Great Britain. Forced schooling was seen as a necessary implementation to indoctrinate future corporate workers and conforming to industrialist visions of a scientifically controlled and optimized society. This rabbit hole goes much deeper than one may assume. Before World War I began, in a speech directed to accredited businessmen, President Woodrow Wilson stated that, quote, henceforth public policy will be geared to providing a public education tailored to producing industrial workers who did not question orders and were skilled in only basic manual labors, and that a, quote, liberal education will be reserved for only a small elite. Railroad developments, availability of coal and oil, telegraph communication, and machinery for mass productions have all threatened the abomination of the dreams and aspirations of all indigenous Aborigines and their respective communities to become irrelevant when it comes to their individual realities.
Listen to this. This is deep. Educational development. And in that chapter, it just lays out tons. It says the education of the Negro, however, has continued in the hands of whites, and the Negroes themselves being largely the objects of such efforts. This results from the fact that in the main, it is a concern of the government, and Negroes are not permitted to figure conspicuously in this sphere. The philanthropists are not to be blamed for this. They are merely dealing with the situation as they found it. The public functionaries believe that it ensures to their special program to direct the mental development of the Negro along the lines which is not prejudicial to their interest. To develop the Negro along the lines which is not prejudicial to their interest. And some of them, discarding the economic principle that the consumer pays the tax, boldly assert that since they are financing the education of the Negro, they have the right to direct it as they will. The education of the Negro, therefore, has been largely a process of telling the Negro what someone else wants him to say or do, and watching him do it in automatic fashion. Clear as day. The General Education Board, anytime you're researching the past, you see the word General Education Board. That was the forerunner to the Rockefeller Foundation. That was his name before it became called Rockefeller Foundation. It was Rockefeller's foundation, the General Education Fund. It's just that it was just that, an education fund. It says the General Education Fund, in dealing with the problem of Negro education in the South, has consistently tried to aid the various education agencies of the states in their endeavors. In 1910, the Peabody Education Fund, the Southern Education Board, enabled Virginia to employ a state grant for Negro rural schools. The following year, the General Education Board took over the support of this work and extended the offer to other southern states. Kentucky, Alabama, Arkansas responded at once, and they were closely followed by North Carolina and Tennessee. By 1914, Georgia was added. By 1919, each of the southern states had an appointed state agent for Negro rural schools as a member of the staff of the State Department of Education, paid for by the Rockefeller family. So he had built him a Negro superintendent of Negro school development in every state. Now, if you have someone compiling a list of troublemakers, it doesn't make any difference unless you got access to controlling where a troublemaker may reside. like at compulsory school, where everybody's forced to go. Now, if you got this sophistication of a system going, you can in fact start steering the student. Start steering the student. Start steering. The student.
By the early 1800s, American industrialists recognized that compulsory public education was the most useful means to socially engineer the American population to suit the purposes of industrial capitalism. Large networks of corporate foundations, university education and psychology departments, educational accrediting boards, and governmental agencies all arose to oversee the implementation of the blueprint for this ambitious but yet so devastatingly evil social engineering project. Having studied the impelling works of Martin Luther, a German Christian reformer of the 16th century, enabled these organizations to institute the modernization of slavery by way of manipulation and religious beliefs that is still quietly being utilized in today's society in America.
Told y'all I wasn't gonna keep y'all that long. Told y'all, but it's a part 2 to that. But before I say something, what you have to say about that?
First of all, I shade to Steve Coakley. May the ancestors be pleased with him. You know, he speaks truth. We definitely were forced into their system. We definitely were forced to pick on. And see, the thing is, even going back to knowing what tribe we are in, where we from, you know, is that's a whole nother conversation. You mentioned that earlier. I was processing that as you were talking about the tribes that, you know, we come from, and some of us are not understanding. We may be in different tribes, but we still the same people. Does that make sense? We may be in different tribes, but we still, whether you're in part of the Nigerian tribe, because it's a tribe, or whether you're a part of the Cherokee tribe, it's still a tribe. Whether you're part of the Puerto Rican tribe, and you have a mixture of several different tribes. Many of us have several different tribes. So let me get that out the way. But let me go on to, because they did talk a little bit about the tribes and how a lot of us was forced into going to schools and attending schools. And I know for a fact that I've had some of my ancestors, just like Miss Red stated, some of my ancestors were forced into going to the regular schools that was part of the Red Nation. I'm not sure what tribe that particular ancestor was a part of, but I know it did read in a newspaper, I found it, where they were forced into going to attend their schools because they wanted them to abolish the training we have. And even throughout slavery, for some of our ancestors who were slaves, that we were forced into having to take on their native tongue because they would allow us to speak our original language throughout history. And definitely the school system is not really for us to aspire to now. It's one thing to get their education and take it and make our community bigger, or to take their education to go into business for itself. And not many of us are really doing that. We're training our children to get the education and to stay in their system. So we have to kind of find some way to kind of get out, so to speak. But anyway, nevertheless, let me get back on topic. I'm sorry. Let me get back on topic. The topic is what I think about it.
But that's what I was to say. So you wasn't really off topic. because that's what I was going to touch on. You was on topic. You was on topic. I was going to say the same exact thing. You on topic.
So Steve Carmichael, which was a great ancestor, he was like what we call, he was one of the conspiracy theorists, but he showed you how a lot of the conspiracy was of our time. So it's really good to go back and look at a lot of his videos, you all, and how important, how he broke down the Dr. King assassination. He also broke down the attempted assassination of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. He also did a lot of things as far as history. He did a lot of lessons. He taught a lot of things. So definitely go back and look at his videos. Also, that with our school system, and then the fact that a lot of the textbooks aren't up to date, okay? They're still lying, okay? We touched on that a couple of days ago about how a lot of the textbooks, like Christopher discovered America. I mean, how do you discover, this is the old thing, right? How do you discover America when there are already people here? But whatever. So also, it was a lot of discoveries in history that our people made, okay, that was never given the credit to. So that's also something that's not taught in schools. And our school systems basically teach our children how to be slaves, how to create. See, slavery was the first system of capitalism, okay? Slavery was the first system for capitalism. So that's what we have to remember. And it's going to continue and continue and continue. And I'm not saying, and then we have to find a way to reverse capitalism that would help us as a people to get it, to get that money, to get our own land, et cetera, because we never got the 40 acres or a mule, I'm sorry. We never got any of that. Every other racial minority, so-called minority group got it. The Jews got what's due to them. The Korean folk got what's due to them. Every nation except for the melanated folk got theirs, okay? So they think they give us a tax bracket as far as giving us little grants, but hell, everybody can go for a grant. A white person can go and get a grant. So that's nothing for education, for educational purposes.
Today, as we saw today, me and you got a business that went out of business, so we're gonna go get our
yeah, but it's a loan. You got to pay it back. It's not like a situation where you are getting a grant. Now, if y'all want to give us a grant, free for education, free for healthcare, free for everything, then that'll be what's up. But because you got to pay it back. Now, I still think that was wrong for them to get the loan. Don't get it twisted. But what I'm saying is, I'm not talking about them per se, but what I'm saying is that we can get loans, but hell, you got to pay them back. So what's the point? You know what I mean? Who is to say you're going to be able to make that back up? Because if you're paying back this loan and then still trying to run a business, that's kind of difficult, especially if the interest rate is high, and especially if you have to pay your people or whatever the case is. But a lot of things are not made plain, and a lot of things we have to read between the lines. And Steve Coakley basically was trying to tell people about how the educational system was brought about and how it's an institution that's not really helping us. It's basically teaching us how to be more servitude to our masters. And so slavery is a legacy that will continue on as long as we continue to be a part of that system. So
I remember the whole I'm gonna show tomorrow. I'm just gonna skip what I was gonna do, and I'm gonna do a Steve Coakley one because I like that brother too. I like that brother. But just to add on to what you were saying, it's to the point that we have to understand education is not what we learn, is what we learn on our own, not what they teach us, but what we learn. We have to, it's okay. Just like she have all them books because she wasn't getting it out of the school system. They're not going to have certain things in the school system because it's not. They want you to, how they say they want you to work. They teach. They give you enough education just to work for them, to find jobs that work for them. Like they don't give you a type of jobs that deals with you as an individual, your skills, your talents, and what you're good at. That's why when they was doing that and they was giving us trades and stuff, and they realized we were so talented in different stuff, now it's right back to being strictly, because my son, him and his school, they go at it all the time. And I have to explain to him, and sometimes it's really hard to explain to your kids, because some people think that, every parent is different. What you do is your business. How you raise your kids is your business. But every parent think when their kids bring home these straight A's, like they're so brilliant, but not knowing that, well, if they teach you, if this person is more of a logical person, they're going to pick it up. If this person is more of a right side brain person, they're not going to pick up with all that a left side. I mean, some people are able to use both. But when they took out the trades and stuff, so now I'm a fish out of water. But what if they still had them classes and now you have to come to some classes that I'm good at? You wouldn't be a straight A student anymore. But it's your type of class.
Right. And remember they did that, and I love this episode on Good Times where they did that for Michael, because they were saying how Michael wasn't smart or whatever. And then of course Florida was like, well, how about if we ask you this? What if we ask you that? Now some of the questions, I was looking at her like, what? But still, I like the fact that she brought that up and how that makes sense. Because and then they have unrealistic classes like gym. A music class is really a silly class unless you want to sing.
No, but look how many kids, in my day, we're about the same age, but in our days, look how many kids passed, but them straight A students had to go to summer school for gym.
Right.
So now they know what it felt like to, I'm not that physical. Well, this person is not into algebra, I mean, whatever you're good at, you should be able to do. But now the school system is right back like that. They took away everything from these kids. Well, in my school.
At least give me the basic math. Now, depending on what field I'm going into, some fields I'm not going to need math. And then the way that they teach math is not the way that it's supposed to be taught. Like, as long as I get to 2, what difference does it make how I got there? Remember, they'd be like, show your work, and you show your work, and they'll be like, well, that's not right how you got there, but you got the right answer. What difference does it make? I got the right answer.
My son, I'm telling you, he's just giving them hell. Because you got some people also that they do stuff in their head. They're very smart in their head, and you ask them a question, they do in their head, and they give you the answer. Some people don't have to write it down. Some people do it right. I mean, I love that in some people. They do answer.
Right.
And now you telling them to put it on paper, like, I gave you the answer, This is what the questions is, and I gave you the correct, but now I'm marked wrong. Because you didn't show me. You didn't show me. So show me how you got it.
So what, I gotta put 2 dots up here just to show you I did too. You know what I'm saying? Dot. You know what I mean, yo? So a lot of kids are complaining, because me dealing with the kids, more odds of opening your own business is to learn a trade. That's what I'm trying to explain. Stop. They took all that out. They have no more economical classes. They have nothing. Like back in our days, in New York, we had certain high schools like that dealt with automotive. We had some that dealt with schools, trade high schools. Right. If you wanted to do hair, was a school for that. So when you walk there, now it's none. And these kids, and I have enough of them, the first thing they say is, how is that going to help me in the real world? These are young kids. I'm like, whoa. A lot of these kids are failing. They always say, but I don't see where it makes sense. And I feel bad because
what these kids are saying is absolutely right. These schools are not feeding their soul. And they don't even, and they don't have a balance to where they can say, okay, I got to get through this class because I want to get to this. They don't want to get to none of the classes. And then you got these parents that's thinking that they killed their children are not smart. And next thing you know, these kids are put in special ed.
And they always diagnosing our children. They always have to be autistic, ADD, ADHD, everything. What else? What's the other little thing that they diagnose them as? What else? Besides attention deficit, it's something else. It's some other stuff. Besides bipolar and. But it's some other things, you know what I mean? They're always diagnosing them with something. Disruptive, what is it called? I think it's disruptive behavior. It's a certain kind of diagnosis. It's something to that degree.
They also say depressed, they got anxiety. You want to put them on medication. I'm like, if we don't get out of here.
That's what I'm talking about. They'll diagnose, but they'll straight up the teacher would diagnose this, and I would be like, and I used to tell teachers, are you professionally trained to diagnose a child? Well, no, that's just what I feel. Well, then you don't say it. It ain't about what you feel. You're not a professional. That's not your scope of education. So you can't diagnose my child with what you just said.
And
because
so
you're not even a professional. That's not even your scope of education, correct?
Correct.
Well, yeah, let's just say that he needs a little more help. Well, you the teacher, aren't you? What you doing?
And my heart goes out to these kids and to these kids that parents, they're so quick to say, you know, they're not part of the parent conversation. Oh, my child's so smart. My child makes straight A. They will never be in that. So parents gotta, you know what? Find out what make your kids smart. That's the point that I'm saying. That is your job. You need to find out so that if they can't be a straight A student in school, let them be a straight A student at home. Find out,
and they don't make them bad. They don't make them dumb either. Just because they might not understand how to assimilate.
No, but some of them are still smart. They just don't do that. But it's up to the parent to find out what is your child's gift. That's up to you. You know, that's up to you to introduce them to them books. They might not like the books, but that'll get their reading skills up. Because they don't want.
Or maybe they don't like the teacher. Maybe the teacher is condescending.
It's all the above. It's all the above. But now the parent have to step in now and say, well, let me find stuff. Because remember, reading is reading. I don't care what it is.
A comic book,
right?
A magazine, something online, a blog. I don't care. Reading is reading, like you said.
Long as you picking up reading skills and comprehension. So long as you keep them reading, but parents got to be, and then you got the child because this one but not knowing that you got a jewel, you got a diamond in that rough in your other kid. You know, them be the ones that's just like back in the days when hip hop first came out.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, they did not do good in school, but did you hear the complexity of some of them rhymes back in the days, like Rakim, and they did studying. When KRS came out, he was still young. He did some studying. He didn't learn none of that in school, but some of the rhymes were so complex, and it went to a rhythm, and then it had nice big words. And even when Chuck D came out, you was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So obviously, the kids were smart. It's just that the parents didn't understand what they did their own individual learning. And they should have pushed that. They should have pushed that and let the kid be them. But it's hard to say to a child, listen, you still have to pass. These are conversations I have to have. You still have to pass their school. You still have.
That's what my mom used to tell me. I was that child. I'd be like, man, I used to sit in that classroom, be arguing. I'd be like, this is dumb. I said, Christopher Columbus did not discover America. This did not happen. I used to be arguing about points. It just got to the point where I'm telling you, I think one of the classes that I did not do good in college was I had to take a business law class, and I did not do good in that class. I got a C. I barely got a C. You understand what I'm saying? Because I could not wrap my mind around the law, because the law I thought was stupid. So of course I'm going to not do so well. And the teacher had to tutor me. He was a lawyer and a judge. Okay. And he would have to tell me, because he understood where my mind was at. He was like, look, the law is not going to be fair. So just get that through your thick head. Stop thinking that the law is fair. The law is not fair. Understand that. But you have to understand the loophole of it. So once he said that, that's when I got my C, because I wasn't doing even a C. And the only reason why I got that C is because I did all the homework and I got like C's on my class on the test. But still, we do have to tell our children. My mother had to tell me that over and over and over in my life. You don't have to like the subject. You don't have to like the teacher, but it's about you getting your diploma. So I just got so irritated with the school system that I graduated early. I graduated a year early just so I can get out, so I didn't have to listen to that babble, because it stressed me out.
Exactly. And that was mainly with me. Because what I got out of Christopher Columbus, this is how my mind works. And I sat there and I'm listening to the story, and I'm like, that man was a drug dealer. That's what I got out of it. I said, that man was how you get mixed up thinking you going to the Americas and your ass stop off in Asia. So when I said that, everybody looked at me. I was like, yeah, he was bringing that opium over to the people over here in Americas, getting them all high and stuff, and that's how you started tricking.
And then he had the nerve to burn his ships because he didn't want to go back, so he forced everybody into staying.
And that's, honey, he was getting that straight opium. I'm trying to tell y'all people, I could feel it in my bones. That's what he was putting in them pipes. He was like, smoke this. He was like, smoke this, right? And then they was smoking it and they was plotting against them because they had them high. You know what drugs do to you? That's why he kept getting lost. No, he didn't get lost. He knew where he was going. He was going straight to the opium.
And that's why he burnt the ships. So they didn't have a choice but to stay.
But that was me young just saying that. But now when I got old, I'm like, I still believe that. When I said that, when I said he's a drug, I said he was the first drug dealer, right? People looked at me like I was crazy. But as I read the story, and then I read it on my own too, but this is younger me, I said, this sounds just like a drug dealer. Listen to how the story went. It makes absolutely no sense. How you kept getting lost. And then he was getting money from Spain and France, correct?
UK.
So I was like, this man's a drug dealer. Going around going to Asia, getting all that daggone opium. Probably was getting that straight good opium too. That's back in the days. They ain't know how to mix it and all that up. They was giving it to you straight, no chaser. I said everybody was high around. They were on a boat high. They went to the country high. They gave everybody high around Christopher Columbus. But I'm just saying that the purpose of these videos for this month is just for you to go outside of your mind and educate yourself more. And we're here to help you. We're here to educate you. We're going to be doing more subjects like this, but this is our Black History Month, telling the truth. We don't want to hear about the same old people no more. You don't want to, and like I said, there's plenty of other videos, but can't play them. So I'm trying to play any ones that don't get me the strike. And after the video over, I still cross my fingers and like, did I get a strike? Did I get a copyright? Did I get a copyright? But this is the purpose, and I thank you guys for taking a ride, because you know when you're talking about the distraction nature boy, oh my God, you get people like crazy, but he's a distraction. That's how you know.
Distraction. It's okay to talk about him here and there, because that has hit, the contradiction does have to be exposed, right? But after a while, it does become draining because it's not mind feeding. It doesn't feed your mind, your heart, and your soul, and you're not really learning anything new other than he's a narc, he's a cult leader, he's the devil. I mean, Velvet the devil, all of them are devils. So
No, but-
what other than that?
Well, what I'm saying is not about him. It's the mind state of where our people is at. To whereas he he's an op, because I could get 50 people in here to watch that.
Right.
Because your mindset is on the distraction. But when it comes down to learning about your people, what we've been through, and little things that you may want to research more, because you got to remember, these are just little clips. She got the big old book sitting in her house. So we just showing little clips, little bits, little pieces. Now, if you choose to get the book, or if you choose to read more books and you want to educate yourself more, then me and my co-partner, we have done our job. You know, she was showing the book, you know, and then if you didn't catch the books, then watch the replay. And then when she put a book up in there, press pause on it so you can write down the name of the books that she was showing. Because even though she was putting it up there, you may not have caught it if you was watching that. Watch the replay and go, okay, let me pause it. Let me write the name of this book down. Let me pause this, write the name of this book down. Because these are just little clips. These are just little interviews. You know, so please, and don't forget that you just have these conversations with your kids. No, they're not going to be ready. So if they're not ready, then you
Some
have
of your children might teach you.
These kids these days, all they know about is that money telephone, that money telephone, getting a diamond in the middle of their head. Now you do got some smart ones out there.
Oh, you got some smart little jokers out there that'll probably school you. I sat one day and was talking to a kid, and that kid was educating me. I was like, okay, and what else? And they just kept talking. I was just acting like I didn't know nothing. I was like, okay, you taught me a lot.
That's
and
his
then I said,
parents.
did you know this?
Parents. So that's just like how you do with your kids. So now we got to keep that in order with our kids. It's okay to watch, to be distracted sometimes, because you need some to get some stress off your mind, but you cannot always be like to whereas this distraction. So in some people rooms, you got 600 people talking about him. Some people rooms got 700 people in there. Got 300 people up in there. You got a lot of people that want to hear that distraction. But we have other people too. We in a cult too, without us even knowing. Look at all the different things that they design for us.
Right. The society is built off of institutions. That's what they basically were saying. That's what they were saying straight up. The society is built off institutions.
And indoctrinates. They indoctrinate to work for them. They know that these jobs got to be filled. And the best way to fill them is to teach you about these jobs. What we doing? What do we need with calculus for? Why should somebody that ain't got nothing calculus in, why should somebody?
If you're not doing things science, why you need that?
Exactly.
And some forms of sciences don't really require calculus. I mean, you just need to know a formula, different formulas. You just need to understand the concept of different formulas. So whatever class that you're taking, that you may have to have a particular formula. I understand math. I get math, but that's one thing I did learn in high school is that you don't have to have every math class that they take. You can take up to a certain amount. That's how I got out early. I was like, look, I don't need all that math because I'm not ready to do nothing. None of my trades is going to really involve math. So that was another thing.
Right. So please, we're gonna keep this going, but we're gonna do the Stockholm syndrome. But
the next time that we talk about Nature Boy, I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to bring some points about this. I've been looking for this book, but I forgot where it was at. But I'm going to bring out this point when we talk about Nature Boy, so I can kind of bring up certain points of this book in talking about Nature Boy and what he's doing and what has been done to him, but mainly what he's doing to others, you know.
Okay. I only talk about Nature Boy in the daytime. I'm trying to get them little watch hours. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. No, I'm not mad at you, but I'm just saying that this remind me. I'm gonna set this right over here.
Okay. I try to get the little watch hours, but the watch hours is not hard to get. It's all about getting the people, and then until I get a punishment. So I'm like, I'm gonna run the two channels, but me as a person, I cannot just teach distraction.
Well, you can't. So you can't. What can you do? You can't do anything on the other channel.
I could just go on like I just can't go live.
But you can do like video. You could do like a video, but you gotta upload the video.
I'm not doing all that. I ain't doing all that. I ain't doing all that.
I don't know how to edit. I can't edit to save my life.
Exactly. So I'm not.
I tried, but it's not working.
For me, little mistakes that's made, I'm like, hey, it's natural and I like it. But me as a person, I can't do just distraction. My job in life is to how my man said, make you think. So I have to make sure you walk out of here learning something. I can't have a whole entire page on just of Mr. I call him Mr. Distraction.
Mr. Stank Butt.
Because we already
know wash ass.
Like you said, we already know all we need to know. We just wait up for the latest juice, you know. And as we see, nobody's really calling nobody. He ain't got no cases or nothing on him. But anyway, we out of here early today. I didn't mean to throw in that little bit of clip, but that little bit of clip wasn't what I wanted. I wanted the first one and I wanted this one. But I threw in that little bit of clip, but that wasn't what I wanted. But I still like what he said.
That was still a good clip, though. No, you did good. I think what happened was supposed to happen. But
then,
you know what?
It was 3 parts to it, so I didn't want to get all into it. And then we get to the cliffhanger, and I ain't got part 2 and part 3 ready. So that
people can watch that on their own, though. You know what I mean? You put the spark out here, the black spark. You put the spark out there. But I want everybody to watch this movie. It's on YouTube. There is a book for it, but definitely get the book. But right now, tonight, you can actually watch the movie, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. This is a pretty good movie for you all to watch. It's like a 70s clip, so definitely watch it. But this is the movie, the book that is based off. I mean, the movie is based off this book. It has certain inconsistencies, maybe not in there, but however, it's still a good movie, but very good book.
It's a very good. I remember when Nipsey Hussle was talking about that and that book, and he was gonna make that his title of his song. And I hate when we educate ourselves and we talk to somebody and they get like, oh, what, you know about that? Yeah, because you was in the school system, that don't mean books wasn't offered to everybody. I could still read a book, you know. It's a thing called a bookstore, you know.
Exactly.
It's a bookstore, you know. And I'm quite sure you didn't learn that in school either.
I didn't learn none of this stuff in school. Everything I learned was outside of school. My mother educated me. I've had relatives, and I also educated myself. And I actually had teachers. I've had people who were mentors, who educated. The guy at the bookstore, his name was Son. He's an older gentleman, and he really gave me a lot of spool of knowledge. And I've walked through different schools of consciousness. And that's what certainly helped me. And my husband is very informative. We've taught each other. And that's definitely the thing that you want to have in a relationship, not just somebody being a so-called messiah, but actually getting information from your mates. If you can't learn from each other, then why are y'all together? But you ain't heard that from me.
I had a machine that does this, but I don't know what happened to it, so I have to do physical clapping now.
Well, I'm going next time. I'm gonna pull up a little thing on my StreamYard, and I'm gonna get a clapping, so we'll have that. I just gotta remind myself. I'm gonna find a clapping noise, and then I'm gonna upload it, and I'm just gonna press it when we need it.
Yeah, but I got it. I just don't know what I did with it. It got all the different sounds and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to thank all you guys for being here.
Wait a minute. Don't go nowhere. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Don't go nowhere. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Shoot. Now you get ready to make my mind go now. We ain't gonna do that. Wait a minute. Okay. You should have brought it up.
Okay.
You brought it up. Your fault now. Hold on. Dang it. Wait a minute, y'all. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. You know how YouTube will make you watch an ad. Hold on, y'all. Wait a minute. Hold on, y'all. Come on, dang it. Hold on, wait a minute. Okay, very good show, everybody. Okay.
Thank you all for being here. We're going to do something on my man, brother, Steve Cokely, tomorrow. So just get ready for it. Get ready for Steve Copeland tomorrow. Everybody have a blessed night, and thank you for coming to get that information. Thank you, co-host.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Everybody, please make sure you subscribe to each other, and let's get these numbers up.
Drop your link, drop your link, drop your link, drop your link.
Please subscribe, because 1 minute I have 559, the next minute I have 600 and 601, and I don't know. So I'm just like, whatever.
No, they do dirty like that. It's called the purging. They purge the heck out of you, and they purge your hours. They purge your thing. They do that. If I don't have Dr. Amira, go check her out. Go check her out. Go check her out. And the other one is her website. I gotta go check her website. I want to order some stones because Mother Love bought up a stone, which I didn't write down the name of the stone, but I wanted to ask you, did you have it? I wanted to ask you, did you have it? Because I would have got it straight from you, but I forgot the name of the stone.
Many blessings to you, Miss Sister Crystal.
Red Queen, do you remember the crystal stone or the crystal that Mother Love brought up the other night and somebody asked to spell it and you had to spell it? Do you remember the name of the crystal, Red Queen? Peace and blessings. She said peace and blessings to you, Kiana.
I spoke back. I said, Sister Crystal.
Oh, okay, darling.
It said, okay, darling. Hemite. Yeah, I got him. I got Hemites.
I don't see it yet.
Oh, she said Hemite. It's a Hemite.
No, remember, y'all see it. Y'all see it. I don't know. I'm a little like a second or two behind you guys.
Yeah, I'm looking on the actual. I'm toggling from both. So that's the only reason why I seen it, because I'm looking down. It's all good. I mean, we know you ain't see it. I mean, it's all good. Wait a minute. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I got it, but I just have to go to my crystal area and look up. But I have more than just crystals, you all. I have all kind of things, from herbs to cleanses to healings and everything.
We're gonna do a show on that. We're going to do a show on your business. So we need to support our sister here. We need to support her. You can support her thing more than you can support her channel, but it'd be nice to support both. But if you need certain things, support your sister.
Yeah, because speaking of, because I don't, Because I keep saying, you know, I don't really know about this YouTube thing, because I'm telling you, I'll fall short because my life get busy. And then you be going live a lot, so I'll just like, I'll just jump on. But my life will get busy, so I just, you know, that's the reason why I say, you know, I could use, if YouTube come up, cool. If it don't, oh well. You know what I'm saying?
But the thing is, we always claim we can't do these type of videos, and then you have a black business owned person and don't support it. So what are we really learning from these videos? We always keep saying we had this and we had that, but then we don't want to support each other. But a lot of them don't know about these crystals, and a lot of them don't know about these things. But you will explain what that's for when we do a show on that. But the Hamite, oh well.
Oh, there you go. I just dropped the link in there for the Hamite. So I got it. I knew I did.
Yeah, because she spoke so good of it. So I want that stone.
Yeah, because it could be your friend. It could certainly be your friend. It helps you certainly with worry and stress and all those good things. It's protective. It helps you protect and ground through certain situations. If you're battling, going through yada, 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 and it's definitely good for your root chakra, whatever.
She said she used it to get her Wi-Fi to work now.
I mean, it's different stones that you can use for so the better one would be to help. Well, I mean, you know, you could do that. That's what you want to do. However, you can also use to also a great crystal will also the EMFs. Those are also good for your Wi-Fi to help the disconnections with the Wi-Fi. Because sometimes, a lot of times, you know, also what's good, it helps you protect from radio, sound waves, and stuff like that.
She was saying
the EMF is good for that. Those EMF stones. Okay.
When we do a show on that, everybody get your wallets out, get your credit cards out, get the debit cards out, and we all gonna try to place an order right then and there. We're gonna place an order, and then you know how to put your stuff on my screen, right?
Oh yeah. I know how to do screen share. I know how to do. If I don't know how to do nothing else, I certainly know how to screen share. That was the first thing I learned.
No, but when I go into other people's live, I don't see share.
You don't?
No,
I do.
No, I don't. For some reason, or maybe some people got it to whereas you can't screen share theirs. They don't want you to screen share. Maybe it's a way you could take it out. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I've been able to do it, but I don't know. I have to read why you can't do it. We have to figure out why you can't do it.
She said black tourmaline to protect from negative. See, I ain't worried about negative energy. I ain't worried about that negative energy because I am covered. It'll bounce right back off you. But certain, that's why I say I like to learn about certain. I don't want nothing for love. I don't want to love nobody. I want you to stay with me. I ain't trying to fall in. I don't want to fall in love. Then next year I get some monster and I'm the one asked for it. You know, no, I'm looking for particular ones, and them two, the Hamite and the EMF, something for it, because we're always on these on these things and stuff like that. Now that's something I'm looking for too.
That's also the rough Hamite that I was talking about. I got the rough one and I got the smooth one. So, you know.
Well, we're gonna sure enough go through that, and then I already made my own yoni steams. I used to make all that myself. I was so good with that, and I just stopped. I stopped with the yoni steam because the yoni steam messed me up. It messed me up. And don't say I didn't do it right. I did it right.
I don't know what kind of service you was using. It's really helpful. I'm a wholesale. I do wholesale.
I did it right because it did what it's supposed to do, but I didn't want to be corrected.
Okay, got you. I understand. I was gonna say, I'm like, I was like, I wholesale them. I was like, no, don't say that. No, I wholesale.
My whole cycle go back to exactly how it was supposed to be.
I understand what you're saying. It reversed.
It made it go back to regular. I was liking it irregular. I was like, it wasn't supposed to do what I wanted it to do. I didn't want it to correct nothing, dang it. I just wanted to.
You was enjoying not having it. I got you.
No, I was still having it, but
you was enjoying it not being here, not being there. It was kind of it started going from.
It was like less days, and it put me right back into my regular schedule. I mean, right on cue. Like before, it was like every 24, went right back to 28, right back to the regular days, right back. I'm like, oh man, I was like, that's why I was like, I don't like how I did it. It did what it was supposed to do, but I didn't want it to do. I didn't want it to do what it was supposed to do. I wanted to do other things. But you want to speak upon Yoni's theme. I've never heard upon a Yoni's theme. You need to speak upon a Yoni's theme. And what's that other one that you put up in there? Pearls?
That's the rough Hemite and the smooth Hemite.
The women, the pearl. Remember, we speak upon Yoni's thing. Now you got the pearls that you put up in there. Now I know to stay away from Rose Quartz, girl. That one I know. I'm gonna throw that one. So I'm gonna throw that one out by the beach. I'm gonna throw it in the water. Let the fish fall in love. I don't know what to tell you. I throw it in there. But they got the Yoni pearls too.
I got that too. Yeah, I got the Yomi eggs, the Yomi eggs and the Yomi pearls. The Yomi pearls are like what they call a tampon herb that you insert inside you. The Yomi eggs, they're shaped in an egg form, but they're the crystals that's shaped into the egg form. So if it's a rose quartz, it could be a rose quartz, it could be a jade, it could be whatever type of crystal that you're trying to attract into your Yomi, and you just insert it into you come in the sets of 3s.
Where is the leave me the hell alone one that can stick up there and they were like, oh God, I smell her. She said, leave me alone. But anyway,
I'm not giving you that one.
One that's for women. We want to start off with that because I know you have a lot of stuff. So I want to do one that's like in women's care.
I have that here. This is a woman's care right here. This is the link to the women's care.
What you call it on that? Don't bring it up yet.
Okay. Okay.
You can put the link in there, but when we do it, you're going to be showing it and you're going to be explaining it and what you do, and then like if you can't afford the seat, the Yoni seat, you can get your little old one of them little old $5 chairs you sit on when you go to the park. Cut a little.
Well, actually, you can get I can get you one better. I have those things that you get at the doctor. You know, where you get a sis bath. You can sit in the sis bath and sit in your toilet seat.
Yeah. The little washing thing. So it's going to be 2 different tricks. You do not have to spend your money on that. Well, you can spend your money if you want to.
Or you can get a sis bath from me, the little sis baths that I sell that comes with the Yomi steam and etc. I have to do a whole set.
But they don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But when she gonna do the whole show. I'm just gonna sit back and watch. But I'm into stuff like that. We got to get into women's care here. And then you don't want to be walking around with none of these bacteria infections and stuff like that. And they got different roots that you can use for different roots or teas or whatever. You can use and squash, and it'll clean out all that.
Squash.
You know I get that part right. Martin Lawrence. Squash. You know,
I can't reach you today. I can't.
We got squash, and then it'll clean out that bacteria and things if you have certain things. But she's gonna get all into that
I even help to clean out. You can actually clean out bacteria by using certain different type of essential oils to also get bacteria out of your mouth to get rid of access. But whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking because if we keep talking, I'm gonna keep talking.
We're gonna get into the private parts, but I want to do women's care. Then we're gonna do like a women's care and what the stones are first. Then we're gonna venture off to herb. Then we'll do another section about herbs and stuff. But we want to definitely do women's care first because that's the first thing we need. Like she could talk about things that can help you right with the cramps and things that would, help you with your meds. Well, I messed up. I effed up and did it the right way. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm still mad. I am still mad. I'm like, at first, it was like the worst cramps. Then it wasn't no more cramps. And then I'm like, how many days? I'm like, what the? They said it was gonna go back. I thought they was joking. I didn't know it could go back to all these days. I was like, what the hell? But that's my natural cycle, though. So it wasn't natural.
I'm on my little regimen right now, so
but I want one of them pearls though, girl. You put them things up in you for 3 days, or depending on how you want to do it, and you'd be amazed at stuff that will come out of you. But that's time consuming, and you got to do it on a certain time, like a couple of days before your meds, a couple of days after your meds, because you got a lot of dead stuff that's up in there too.
Well, just as long as you're not having your message, it don't have to be a particular time frame. Just as long as it's not on the time when you are having your menstrual.
That's why I said you gotta be a couple of days even before. Make sure you do it before your meds. But either way, you'll be amazed that you got all
that tissue,
all that dead tissue and stuff that's up in there. But she's gonna get all into that. I don't know. I wish I could cut this out because people who watching the replay gonna be like, "What the hell?"
They went from this to this. Okay, well, I'm gonna quit talking because if we talk, it's gonna. If I keep talking, it's gonna mess up what you talk about.
Whoever watching the replay, we just letting you know what's coming up too. So we letting you know. So you gotta know what's coming up too. And if you are a woman, she's gonna probably want to demonstrate some stuff. I don't know what she's gonna do. It's gonna be her show. But we're going to do her show the last day of the month. If you want to do a little bit after that,
okay. So I got it now,
Her show, I don't know if it's 28 days or 29 days or 30 days. I don't know how many days in this month, right? But which day is the last day is going to be Women's Day. And we're going to let her do what she do, baby. But we out of here. Thank you, guys.
This is y'all. I gotta go. Thank you. I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much, Sugar Love. Love you. Love you. Love you.
Love you more. Love all you guys here. I appreciate
all y'all.
And then Red Queen, if you want to come on a panel and share what you know, come on, baby. Come on. It's Women's Care Day. It's Women's Care Day. You want to come up on here? Come on up here the last day of the month. It's about us. You can't have a Black History Day without the Black Queens. All right, guys. Peace out. Thank you.